Welcome in, everyone, to the Essential Credentials Podcast, the 2020 interview series, episode 13. And I am not Matthew J. Burrows. My name is Ryan Mullinax, and I am here as as I mentioned Matthew J. Burrows. I'm here to interview Matt. He has given me this opportunity. He said, "Hey, man, would you like to do this interview?" And I said, "Sure, man. I'm 100% on board to do this." So, without any further ado, let's welcome Matt into the show. How's it going, man?
What's up, man? Thanks for being willing to do this. I sure appreciate it. It's going to
Yeah,
be a lot of
no
fun, dude.
no problem at all. So glad that you asked me to do it. Look, like I said, I was 100% on board when you said, "Hey, would you mind doing this interview?" I was like, "Yeah, man, of course, I'd love to do it." First of all, let me say thank you so much for putting this series together. I've had a blast. It's just to see how everybody collects the journeys that they've had, a lot of insight that they've given. It's been an extraordinary um, experience, and to get to know some of these people better other than just through comments on whether it's on Facebook or through the comment section in YouTube or whatever. But some just amazing collections to see, but more importantly, some really cool people, some really amazing people. And I think you and I were talking the other day, and just the fact that it doesn't really matter what you collect, you see just the humanism, the underlying similarities that we have, and the commonalities and the things that make us enjoy the conversations that we have. So thank you so much for doing that. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really a pleasure for me because I got to know each of those collectors even more than I already did, and I think I came away from the whole series, every episode, with something that I could use to reflect upon my own collection. I mean, I think you and Brent, not to say that any of the other collections and people that I listened to weren't amazing, but you and Brent had a huge influence on where, I decided to take my collection for the rest of the year and then this next year forward because, there was just things that everybody said that, really spoke to me. And you talking about and Brent talking about like really collecting the things that you love and the players that you have a connection with, not just what's new and exciting. I was so caught up in that whole aspect, which I think a lot of us were this last year. So it really helped me, and I think it really kind of solidified my goal and my focus for the rest of this year and next year for sure.
That's fantastic. Yeah, with the way 2020 has been, obviously, and I believe Chuck had brought this up. There's a lot of people that have dealt with a lot of issues that many of us have not had to deal with, and so
Right.
we've got to focus on some lighter things in life, and so we kind of got to reevaluate that as well. So I think a lot of us are doing that. I think a lot of us are reevaluating maybe how we collect or what we collect, or really retraining our focus back into what we do. So yeah, I'm with you. I understand completely. But look, I'm really excited about this because you and I met maybe a little over 16 months ago or so, something like that,
Yep,
and
that's
I
right.
had jumped into the Rare 90s group on Facebook.
Mhm.
I think I just stumbled across it somehow, and you would comment on my post, as it was a new post, and um, you would comment, you would like, and then you would kind of reach out through messages like, "Hey, man,
Mhm.
if you're looking for something, let me know. These are some people that you can get in contact with." So you were
Right.
just very open, and I appreciate that. You kind of extended that hand of friendship, and it helped me feel very comfortable in the group. So I want to say thanks
Yeah,
for that.
absolutely, man.
Um,
I think there's people that you come across and you can even tell on social media that are like-minded collectors. There's a lot of really, really interesting and unique collectors out there. Everybody's unique in their own right, but I tend to gravitate towards people who have a similar mindset as me. I think you've kind of noticed that the people that I take the time to reach out to and comment on, and I could just tell that you were a very genuine guy, friendly guy. I like the '90s box breaks, and I like that you always had a story behind the cards that you posted, and that was always important to me. And I do want to give Ryan a shout out because people might not know this, but I watched you break a box of Ultra '99, which had one of the coolest pulls, the Griffey. Diamond producers in there. I mean,
yeah,
what an incredible experience. But you pulled, like I think 2 A-Rod gold medallions and a couple base cards. I didn't have any of them, and I was like, hey, what do you want for them? And you're like, I'm just gonna send them to you. And so I think that imprinted on me right away. Like, okay, this is a guy that I need to make sure to keep a friendship with. And that's really where most of my friendships have come from, not by getting things, but by reaching out and just having conversations and having a friendship just right from the get-go. And it was just fun to watch your collection grow, man, because it's so easy to hit the 90s, especially. Like, there's so much to pick up, and you just were very particular about what you were going for. And yeah, it's been great to see where you've come in those 16 months for sure.
Well, thanks. It's been a very insightful journey for sure. Really enjoyed it. And, I think you are a common thread between a lot of us as collectors. A lot of guys probably already knew each other, but, everybody that you've interviewed in the series or people in the Facebook groups that we're part of, I have those connections because, you were kind enough to invite me and open that door for me. So I think a lot of us, we feel connected, through this podcast and other areas because of you. So we really, I, for one, appreciate, I'm sure others do too. I think that that's really helped a lot of us just kind of get to know each other a little bit better. And that's been exciting. And so there's some things that I've never really asked you before about collecting.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why we're here doing this interview. It's a great
gonna be fun.
opportunity for the host to for us to flip this around on the host and learn a little bit about your collecting experience. So,
Well, the big thing of it too is I've always thought and I've talked about this with Tyler especially. He because he and I are kind of in similar places. We're often communicating with lack of kids at home, so we have more time to devote to our cards. I'm sure you understand that. But I mean, he's just as excited, to see a hockey card as he is for me to show an A-Rod, and vice versa. I mean, I love watching his and the rest of your guys' collection grow, and it's more about everybody else than it is about me. I think that's the way to approach life, and it's so easy to get caught up in me when you're collecting, especially. Look at this card I got and look at this card. But I sure appreciate bringing people together who are just as excited about their friends' collections as their own, and I think that's something I would love to see more of because. And I said this in one of my videos. I think I deleted it. I was trying to make one of those statement videos, and I'm like, maybe that wasn't a good idea. But it's really not about me. It's not about us. It's about them. So hopefully we see that trend continue because I'm seeing it more, and it makes me really happy on the collecting side of things.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, this goes right along with it. It's just that's kind of the goal, especially with the way things have been in our country, in the world, things that can bring people together because we all probably have a lot of differences. We probably have, a lot of different opinions, but we understand that we can respect one another. And this is just kind of the common ground that we have to do that, and
Right.
so I totally agree with this. That's
Ray, I have to give Ray a quick shout out. I do want to do this throughout the interview, but Ray, especially when I was collecting Ichiro cards, he was more than willing to help out. Middle of the night, early in the day, he would send me links. Hey, check this out. Those are the type of people that again, I make sure to stay in contact with. And he definitely has set a good example because I met him long before most of the people that are in our group, and he's definitely put a good example out there for how to treat others in the collecting community. So big shout out to him.
awesome. Well, guys, bear with me. I'm trying to produce and host at the same time, and this is my first time using StreamYard. So if I just zoom in and forget to put Matt on the screen, just bear with me. So let's jump in to these questions. So just kind of doing some research. Take us back, around 1996, and kind of share with us how your collecting journey began.
Well, I can actually go further back if you want to when I was a wee little guy, probably 1990 or so. So my dad, as he did, watched a lot of sports, and one day he came home with these starting lineup figurines of hockey players, and there was a goalie and 2 skaters. No idea who they were, but I can tell you that the goaltender, I was like, that guy looks awesome. So it was done, imprinted in my mind, like hockey is it, goaltending is it. So from there, he would bring some hockey cards home, and I know he collected a little bit as a kid. He loved Johnny Unitas growing up, so he had some of his cards, and it was kind of something that he passed down to me, not the cards, but his love for collecting. And So from there, I started collecting hockey cards, and I'll use this opportunity to tell a really hilarious story about myself. When I was 6 years old, no, maybe 5.5, 6, something like that. I I tried to steal a check from the pantry for my mom, like a blank check, and like I remember bringing it to my grandpa and being like, "Hey, we can fill this out and just get some cards." I mean, obviously I didn't know how it worked, and my mom likes to remind me of that moment from time to time. But I mean, to use that as a way to say that, yeah, I was willing to go to any lengths to get cards, and I sure enjoyed it. So from there on, my dad and I, when I would visit him, we would go to the card shop. There was this one in Washington, I want to say in Federal Way. There's an older lady, and she's super nice. And we'd go in there, and she knew exactly what to pull out. She'd pull out all these base card boxes of goalies and stuff, and just let me look through it and pick out bunches of them. And it was just awesome. So from there, my dad convinced me to like be a more like focused collector. He's like, you pick like 4 or 5 goalies you like. So Tom Barrasso on the Penguins. And then I picked, a few others, Felix Potvin and other guys that had cool masks or cool looking setups. And I just collected those guys from there. And then fast forward to 1995, Christmas of 1995, my grandpa shows up with this My Oh My Mariner video. And it was about the 95 Mariners, Miracle Mariners. And
Yeah.
they were about to move out of Seattle, and they had that incredible run through the playoffs and beat the Yankees. And, didn't win the World Series, but I was hooked there. This little tiny guy named Joey Cora. He ran fast. He played good defense. He was a gritty player, and I loved playing baseball at the time. So I became a Mariners fan. Of course, Griffey. That was an easy choice. I knew who he was, and they had this young guy on the team in 1996. I don't know if you've heard of him, but his name was Alex Rodriguez, or A-Rod. He played shortstop. And so I went to go to my first game, and my dad is super pumped. We go see the Angels play. Mark Langston's pitching, and A-Rod hits a home run off him in the, I think it was the 5th or 6th inning, and they end up winning in like the 12th inning on a wild pitch. And by then we had moved down behind the plate, and so we saw the winning run score. We stayed to try to get autographs, and I still have that hat. I think it has Paul Sereno and a couple of guys I've never heard of. But it was awesome. I mean, it would be an experience I never ever forget. So from there on, I collected baseball until I was about 15, and we moved to Sitka, and Ichiro was in the Mariners. 2001 were just like everybody was talking about him, and then they lost, which broke my heart after winning 116 games, and I just stopped collecting for a while. But that's kind of where it started, I mean, my dad was always big on just kind of motivating me to. He's like, hey, let's open a couple packs of cards, and we'd look at the stats, and he'd quiz me on different guys, and so I definitely owe a lot of it to him, and also my grandpa who would take me to card shops. He took me to this one in Mill Creek, and there was a guy there who was there every time I went, and he would give me great deals on cards, and so yeah, a lot of those memories I'll never forget. But that's where it all started for sure, man. It was a lot of good memories, and a lot of sad memories for my dad buying cards for me.
Oh no, man, that's awesome. I appreciate you kind of going back a little deeper into that. As was watching some of your early videos, you did mention your dad a lot. You mentioned your granddad, and how did collecting? And you've touched on it, but your collecting. How did that help you connect with them? Is that something that gave you guys a tighter bond? Is that something that's continued to this day? And I know you and your dad are into music too, right?
Oh yeah.
So just kind of, describe kind of how that's, connected you guys.
Yeah, no, that's an easy one. So it's no maybe surprise to people that have been listening, but back by the time I was like 7 years old, we moved to Alaska. My dad was in Washington, and so the way for us to kind of stay connected was sports, not just cards, but just sports. And so I, right around, by the time I became around 10 years old, the internet was really big, and I could look up stats of baseball players, hockey players. I still watched the All-Star games, and so I would often use those as a way to stay connected. And so I would get a card and say, hey, Dad, did you know about this player? Did you know about this? And he still followed sports somewhat. By the time I was 10, 11 years old. And then of course my grandpa would still take me to Mariners games. He took me to 2 spring trainings in Peoria to see the Mariners. I saw Ichiro and Brett Boone and all the 2001 Mariners play, and I was like, we're going to suck this year. Guess I was wrong about that. I was like, who's Ichiro? He didn't do anything. I think he had like one hit in like 3 games. Like, who is this guy? Like, we spent all this money for him. Yeah, well, I was pleasantly wrong about that. But yeah, so it was just a way for us to stay connected. And so when I would bring cards with me and I would be around them, we would use those to like kind of learn about the players in the league. I'd open a pack, say, "Who the heck is this guy?" And my dad would say, "Well, let's look him up." We'd look up in a magazine or look it up on the internet or something, and we'd find out more about who the heck this Mariner prospect was or this rookie card of this guy. So yeah, it was definitely a way to stay connected, and that's something that I certainly have a soft spot for when you talk about collecting with your kids and other YouTubers collecting with their kids, like Vinny and his daughter, for instance. That brings me
Yeah.
so much joy because that's something that I think we need more of. We really do. I hope card companies remember that and keep putting out cheap products because it was certainly a highlight of my childhood for sure.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I was going through some 87 tops today that my uncle had given me when I was a kid. It was a binder. Just completely forgot I had it. And, my dad didn't, he didn't collect, but, I had mentioned that he would buy me stuff where he would take me to the card shop because he worked a lot. But, you know, even though there might be a few memories of that, it was just one of those things it's so um, ingrained in my mind, and I go through old boxes at home of stuff that I still haven't pulled out and
Right.
displayed, but I find things like, oh wow, I forgot about this. So there's something about something that's tangible to connect you to memories to your past, and through collecting, it's been a great thing. And I know with your granddad too, you mentioned that he kind of hooked you up with a certain player. I believe that you tend to collect a lot.
Yeah, no, I know. Are you referring to the autograph story right now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, oh man, what a memory! It's actually right over there, underneath Dwayne Wade. So
I see
right
it.
there. Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, that was that was really just a wild experience, and the story itself is kind of funny because when you're 11, 12 years old, as a male, you're starting to get some of those hormones kicking in, but
Tell me about it.
regardless of the fact that, yeah, geez, well, because you're kids, but
Yeah.
regardless of that fact, I mean, I'm standing in the second row because in the Kingdom you would go in and you go down onto the left of their dugout, and there was a padded area with a blue pad that you would stand behind, and they would come up and sign there, and so I go down there and there's these three. I mean, I can't remember that well, but I know back then I thought they were beautiful, so I'm sure they were now as if I go back. But I mean, I'm standing like at the right height, right behind them. If you catch my drift, couldn't even
Hmm.
care less. Couldn't even care less. I'm watching Alex Rodriguez. He's out there taking grounders at short, and they're just screaming at him. And he gets done taking grounders. He starts walking by us, doing the cool walk, right? Like just like, yeah, I know you're there, but I'm too cool. And then he like does like a like peels back towards him, like he kind of like took a peek over at the girls and was like, yeah, I think that's worth it. I mean, he was only 20 years old at the time, 21 years
Yeah.
old.
He's like a
So
baby, man.
yeah, he was. And so he comes over and he's just to the right of me. I'm on his right and he's to my right as well. And he starts at the girl on the far right, and I had my program with all the pages, and I flipped to his picture before, so I had it ready. And I remember I had long arms as a kid, because I'm 6'3", and so I just kind of like leaned in and jammed my arm between the two girls in front of me, and he comes down, and I was like the fifth guy he got to, and he signed it, and I'm just like looked down, and I couldn't believe it. So run back to my grandpa, and I remember he had this sad look on his face, like and he told me later it was because he thought I didn't get it. So
Oh
I go
wow.
there and his jaws on the floor. I'm just like beside myself, like I'd won $1 million. And I remember asking a couple kids, "Hey, did you guys get it too?" And kids were crying. I mean, there was so many
Man.
people sad that they didn't get it, and it's a memory that I'll never forget. I mean, it just we talk about it many many times. I was so excited to show him when I got that framed, and he still, may he rest in peace, man. I love my grandpa. He would always say, "Man, that's gonna be worth a lot of money someday." I'm like, "Nah, not really, grandpa. Like his cards are worth more. Like even if I got that authenticated, it's like." It would never be worth enough to sell it, even if it was like a
Yeah.
million dollars, unless even then it wouldn't go anywhere. So yeah, that was really what kind of put me on the journey, because I think I know where you're going next. That's kind of what put me on the journey to you know why I collected who I did later. It was
Yeah.
just an easy choice.
Well, you go back to the fact that you can't put a value on that because,
Uh,
you know, it's sentimental. You know, it's something that you want to keep in your family, and how vividly you remember that is so impressive to me. So, did you like when you stuck it out? Did you have to just leave your arm extended, hoping he saw the same hand, or did he kind
well,
of make eye
the way
contact with you
the
ever?
way
Or,
no, I don't. I think I remember he was looking down the whole time, but he saw his eyes. His eyes were in the right space, I'm sure. But as he was going along, like if I wonder what it looked like from his end. I'm guessing the upper bodies of the females were all lined up, and my program was between the two of them, like under their armpits probably, and so it was right at eye level. So he just was going along, sign, and he just grabbed it and he like pulled it toward him. He signed it, handed it back, and yeah, that was a good time, man. If only I could have some kind of time machine and go back and just take a picture of him signing my program to see what my face was like. But yeah,
that's awesome.
that was a cool time, man. But I mean,
Those
I
are
want I
those are
want to
great
see,
experiences.
you get your kids and other kids. I want to hear stories like that, where
Yeah,
kids can talk about. I mean, maybe not Mike Trout or something who does sign a lot. I
yeah,
will give him credit. But just a memory like that imprints on them forever because I think athletes they got a lot of pressure on them, and it's good for them to know that there's kids out there that are gonna have those experiences and just remember it for the rest of
yeah.
their lives. I mean, they have those
Yeah.
chances.
Well, particularly the guys that have these contracts and they have to sign so many cards or so
Yeah,
many
jeez, no doubt.
stickers. Um, or, I could see how they get burnt out from that. And then you got the guys who may not have those contracts who are probably more willing to sign,
Right.
but it's just really nice to see that there is a sector of those guys that are still willing to do that, that still love the
Yep,
fan interaction.
for sure.
You know, and without going off on too big of a tangent, without I'm sure athletes felt it this year without fans for the
Oh
most part,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
they felt how big of an absence that was in part of the game. So hopefully, maybe that'll spark some interaction moving forward
Yeah,
with some of the
that's
athletes.
it's fun to bring up because I don't know how that's gonna look like. All right, you don't have a
Yeah,
mask on, not gonna sign for you. Like
yeah,
I just can see all that kind of, or like had them having in their contracts don't sign anything because
yeah,
of that. But I hope that we see that again at some point
yeah,
because it's a big part of going to
yeah.
games for a lot of kids.
Well, I've seen that even with the nettings going up. And I'm sure some of those retract, before the game starts. But you mentioned having those kind of interactions. We were able to have that interaction at a double A game a couple summers ago. Omar Vizquel was the
Awesome.
manager for the Birmingham Barons, and I knew he was there. I think Wes Helms was there too, that played for the
Yeah,
Braves.
he was a good
And
player.
I dug through some old stuff, found some cards, and the boys, I was like, I'm not doing it. You guys, I want you to have this experience, this interaction. So, and I explained who he was. We looked at some of his cards. We looked up, his statistics, and they went down to the dugout, and he was just really nice to them. Turned around, signed a couple cards, talked to him for a minute. Wes Helms came
Omar
over.
did
So, yeah,
good.
yeah. So those are put back. I put those back for them because I want it when they're ready to kind of get those out and start looking at them or displaying them. I want them to be in good shape for them. But
That's awesome, man.
but
I
but
I
those interactions are hard to, you
come
can't.
by for sure.
Yeah, they're hard to come by. You can't really put a value on it, and it's just fun. And then this day and age, we have phones, so I was able to take pictures of them. They had the
Yeah.
same kind of interaction with uh, Eloy Jimenez as well,
Oh,
so that
awesome.
was pretty cool. But kind of getting back to A Rod. So you start collecting A Rod around 96, 95, something
I
like that.
mean, I had some cards of his then, but that wasn't like my focus. I mean, Griffey was everybody's focus then. So to pull a Griffey card out of a pack was like, I mean, I remember my friend Antonio called me one year. He goes, it was 1999 or 98, and he was the first out of all of us. He called me and told me he pulled a Griffey card, and I'm ashamed to admit this, but I hung up the phone. And
Oh man,
yeah, no, I was not happy. I was a sore loser back then. But I mean, that's how big it was back then. I mean,
yeah,
we all collected as kids. We would organize our cards and trade, and then eBay became a big deal. And some people in the neighborhood got some ridiculous collections, and I did not. So that stung a bit for sure
Yeah.
because the resource was there. But and then I mean, this is weird. I haven't really thought about this. Right before I moved here, like in the late '90s, 99, 2000, I got into collecting basketball for a year or two because I started to play. I finally made the team in middle school. And in my freshman year, I wasn't very good, but I watched a lot of basketball and was trying to learn how to play the game. And Allen Iverson was like a captivating player. I couldn't get enough of watching him, and then Reggie Miller shoot threes, and Gary Payton, Larry Hughes. Those were some of those guys that just, Vince Carter. That was back in
Yeah.
the Toronto Raptor days. Tracy McGrady, all those guys, and Steve Francis. So I started moving over to basketball for, a little over a year, and had some fun. And I still have a lot of those base cards in like a storage thing. I mean, they're not worth anything, but it was
Yeah.
cool to go back and look at how I had them all organized by page. And so after that, we moved here, and I quit collecting. And in college is when I really started to get back into collecting the '90s. But it was really, what's a word that I can use? It was not the best of times for me because I almost quit going to school. And of course, we all have that moment in our lives. I
Yeah.
think where whether it's sticking with school or sticking with a marriage or whatever,
Mhm.
where I remember like sitting in the parking lot and be like, okay, I'm gonna finish this. I'm not gonna bail now. And from that moment on, it was more focused on school than anything else. So I sold all the cards, which was a bummer. I've seen pictures of what I used to have, and then came back here, and right before I started teaching, I collected for a bit. And this is for everybody to cry with me. I bought probably 30 A-Rod cards, just a little bit. Opened a few boxes, nothing major came out of those, but I bought like 30 A-Rod cards that I just loved, including a holographics from Ionix. And I bought it for
Wow.
$35, and I sold it for 28 in
Jeez.
2011. And it's sad to think about that, but that also let me know where the market was at. Nobody wanted that stuff, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I told myself if I ever got that card again, I was never going to sell it. I don't care if I sell everything else, that one card will never get sold because I just regret it. So yeah, I guess when it really happened, I just got done teaching. It was the summer of 2015, and I woke up really early for some reason, my first day off after the school year ended, and I was sitting in my bed with my laptop out. I'm like, I need to do something that like really keeps me focused on, enjoying myself because some
Hmm.
situations changed personally. And I remembered checkoutmycards.com, and I went over there and I found eBay, and I found like a Brilliance Gold out of 99 for $20, and what was it? Faces of the Game die cut for 15, and I think there was one more die cut. Oh man, I have a salesman sample of it too. The one out of 250 shows you how long it's been since
Oh,
I've looked at my A Rods. But anyways, it was those three cards on eBay. I bought those three, and then went on ComC, and I put a bunch of cards in a cart, as we all do.
yeah.
So it was probably about 60 or 70 cards, and I put the order in, and then I ordered like three '90s boxes from um, baseball card. What the heck? Not baseball cardpedia, of course, but baseball card
Yeah.
exchange.com. Really nice guy that works there, and that was where it started. And A Rod was the focus, and I just started going to these different forums and learning about the '90s baseball cardpedia. I just started versing myself in like the rarity, and like I thought I was buying a 24 karat when I bought that Brilliance 99. I'm like, oh yeah, there's just a gold card. This will be nice. It showed up. I was like, well, that doesn't look very good. Like it's kind of a plain card. Like what happened? And so I had to like teach myself, like what to go for and what was a good deal. And I think it was Freedom Cardboard was where I ended up. And there's a really cool '90s thread there, and I know I met a few people. Brant was there, Nate was there, and a few other guys. And about 2 months into being on there, I found that holographics, and I bought it for an amazing price, under $100. And it was just that was it. Just from there, it was full steam ahead, man, for the next 4.5 years collecting A-Rod.
Wow, man, that's awesome. So, and it's hard for me to imagine you not understanding that it wasn't a 24K, with all the knowledge you have, and that just goes to show. And I know a lot of other collectors who watch this podcast or who've been on it. we all start somewhere. Alan was talking about like he feels like he doesn't really understand a lot, and I know he's dealing with a very expansive collection with Barry
Yeah, he is.
Bonds. But he knows more than he realizes, or at least he's being modest about it. But we all can kind of look back and see that journey, and I think that's
Mhm.
probably what is one of the most exciting parts of it too, is what we
Definitely.
learn about these products. And I think that's something I picked up on with watching your podcast, watching your channel. Was you? It wasn't just about, hey, look at this card, it's beautiful, I love it, it's
Right.
shiny, or it costs this much. It was like, why did they use this material? Why does it look like this? Why did they go
Hmm.
with this color versus that color? Why aren't these serial numbered opposed to those serial numbered?
Right.
So, and that was a lot of us, I think, like that aspect of it. That's why a lot of us love to collect. And so, you know, thinking about you not having that kind of background is
I
interesting
know
because,
it
you're
is.
someone that a lot of us have leaned on, but that's just part of the community sharing,
Mhm.
being willing to share information.
Right.
And so that kind of transitions into this idea of, you collect an A-Rod, you meet a lot of people, you also meet a lot of people who are collecting A-Rod as
A
well.
few of them, yeah. There's a
And
few of them.
so it's, there's this competition a little bit
Yep.
there. Um, but that competition also turns into a connection. So,
Right.
we talk about the importance of community,
Hmm.
and it is important to a lot of us as collectors. So, what do those connections and relationships mean to you? I know you've kind of touched on it a little bit, but
Oh yeah. Oh, that's. I mean, it's everything. That's what this is all about. Is the connections with the community members. It's not about having a better collection, at least in my mind. It's not about having a better A-Rod collection than Jeremy. It's about us helping each other out. Everybody's met him. You know who I'm talking about.
yeah,
Obviously, Jeremy. He and I are good friends, and I love helping him add something that he really wants and vice versa. And that's what it's really all about. I know Chuck touched on the Ripken guys being that way.
hmm,
I think the more expensive of a player you collect, maybe that still happens. I'm not sure. I can't speak for the Griffey guys or the Bonds guys or the Jeter guys. I think it's a little more competitive just from what I've seen. But I think nothing makes me much happier than when you like a card in your collection, you pull this card out and you say, "Oh yeah, I remember Ryan helped me find this card. He sent me a link and it was on Beckett Marketplace. Didn't even know it was there, and here the card is." Or Jeremy was showing off his cards and he's like, "Yeah, really appreciate my friend Will on this one and my friend Matt on this one for helping me get these." And I do got to give a shout out to a couple other people as far as A-Rod collections go. Brant, he's the A-Rod guru.
yeah,
His collection before he sold the majority of it off a little bit to me. I was on video chat with him. I've done it once, and he pulled his box out, and every A-Rod card I named from the '90s that I wanted, like my top 25, he
yeah,
had them all.
wow,
But just to listen to his knowledge and how long he'd been collecting, it was like, okay, I'm going to set my expectation. There's no way I'm going to have that even in the next couple of 3-4 years. There's just no way because it took him 15 years to have that. So I really kind of changed my mindset on how to approach collecting A-Rod. Not just like got to get everything. It's like, okay, really get what you want to have in the collection, and other things will just kind of fall into place. And so him and then Kyle, he's a much younger kiddo, but he's a super nice guy. He collects big time A-Rod cards, like the 101s and stuff. But
hmm,
he also got the '90s bug, and he and I definitely bid each other up a couple of times on some cards. But I'll bring him up again at the national. But he was fun to just see some really young enthusiasm for '90s cards. Somebody his age, just nobody collects '90s at his age. They really just
wow,
don't. It's mostly guys our age, and then Bo Carter as well. Bo is a perfect example of before you meet somebody and you see them as just competition. He and I must have cost each other $300-400 total in some auctions. Just like I made him pay like $90 for the oh gosh, it was a Topps Chrome Refractor out of 100. It's an ironic card. Yeah, I'm sorry,
um,
my memory's going on me. It's the cards that were like because the guys that stayed on the team the whole time from 2000 Topps Chrome. Starts with an A, I believe, right?
I
Um,
think so. I'm trying to
yeah.
remember.
Oh man, it's so bad. Everybody, I
Guys
have to
can help us out in
apologize.
the
I
the
don't
guys
look
can
at
help us out in
my
the chat.
I don't look at my A rods nearly enough anymore. But we bid up to like $90 bidding each other up, and then I
Man,
ended up buying the card from him later, and I was like, well, that makes no sense. But agreed to do a video chat just like this, not on air, just for fun behind the scenes. Man, what a nice dude. I mean, super nice family guy. He was just and he ended up sending me just a ridiculous card um, for free, and it's that kind of thing right there. Just that solidified to me. Most of the guys that are collecting the same players, be there to help each other out. Don't be there to look at them as this competition side of things. We're not trying to win a championship. We're not trying to brag because you have more cards. It's not what it's about. So those guys have all just been a pleasure to meet. And I think without reaching out to these people, you just don't know that. You
Yeah.
just don't know that they're actually genuine good people like yourself, you know.
So is that a mindset change from collecting for is that something that you've seen happen in your collecting? Is that, when you were collecting in college or right out of college and you sold off compared to how you collected starting off early again with like I'm going after it to now it's you have this mindset of community and we're working together even though we are kind of competing for the same stuff. Is
Mm-hmm.
that just kind of how you've seen things change?
It's made me enjoy collecting so much more. I mean, it was stressful having it be a competition. I mean, I remember there was a time where I was like, I should just get rid of the Facebook, get rid of the Facebook group, just focus on collecting the A rods and do everything I can at all costs to get these cards. And it just wasn't enjoyable. You know, I mean, at least for me, it wasn't. Maybe for somebody else that would drive them, but I'm a super competitive guy. I've played sports all my life, and I play City League basketball still and softball here, and I mean, even when I'm playing a video game, I still don't like to lose. But I've had to, as you get older, you start realizing the importance of certain things and others not meaning diddly squat. So I think from that point, that was just kind of spearheaded my mentality on. I'm not going to be able to get every A-Rod card I want. I'm just not. It's
Yeah.
not realistic. And I know that Nate has talked about this, Reese has talked about this within the Bonds community, and Ben, they and Alan, they do a good job of checking in with each other. Like, okay, here's a big time '90s card. None of us have it. Where is this on your want list? And Alan might say number 12, and Nate might say number 8. Ben says number 6, but Reese is like, this is my number 1 card. They all say we're all gonna back off. Good luck. And when you're able to do that, like Jeremy and I have done, very few times do we say, you know what, may the best man win,
Yeah.
and I'll admit he usually wins on most of them, but that's just how it is. Usually we're very say, okay, there's these 2 cards up, you go for that, I'll go for that, and it's certainly not only does it strengthen your friendship in a way, but it definitely helps your wallet a little bit too.
Yeah.
But then you don't have to think like I gotta have it all. It's like, okay, I'm gonna be happy with this 1 card right here. I'm also happy that my friend got that card right there. Boom.
Yeah.
They're both awesome.
I was thinking about as you were talking about that, with Chuck talking about back in the 90s, collecting 90s during that time, it was whatever was in the shop, whenever it showed up, you didn't, you might have had some contact with people in the shop that you would see on a regular basis, but he said that they weren't even really having the trade days and stuff when he was
Mm,
doing it yet. Um,
right.
and to think that we have this type of platform that we can interact on and that the cards, you can almost find any card you want for the most part.
Yeah.
At some point within a few years, it's created that, I guess, competition is everybody has a market that they can go to. And
Right.
so it's really nice to see that we have been able to create these communities and you have these bonds groups and you have, A-Rod groups and Griffey groups and Javi Lopez groups. No,
That's coming one day, man. You're gonna get everybody hooked on Javi
all
Lopez.
2 of us. Yeah,
Better for you.
of course, right? Before
Yeah.
we transition.
Oh
So
man.
what I think a lot of people are trying to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean that's the goal. I've been I'm working on getting Ryan there, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But I think the goal is to, in my mind, we were chatting about this, man. I'm more excited to hang out with all you guys. I am going
Yeah.
there with the expectation, it happens and we're all able to go, of just having fun hanging out with my friends. And if I walk out of there without a card, which won't happen, let's be honest, I'll go to that 25-cent bin and I'll grab a goalie card if I have to. But um, I'm not going there with any expectations of finding any cards because I've made it up in my mind where I'm at, is all gravy. I could stop right now and enjoy everything I have and be completely content with where I've been able to get to. But yeah, with the national, man, I can't. I really hope that you're able to go, and obviously a lot of the
Yeah.
guys that have been on this channel, I hope they're all there for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. That's definitely a goal of mine. If it's not this year or this next one, maybe a year or so down the road. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it one day. We
Yeah.
had mentioned, I don't know if it's ever coming back to Atlanta with most of the major
Oh,
dealers,
right.
up the East Coast, and I get it. It's kind of hard to pull, people down, take people to the cards versus cards to the people, I guess. But
That's right.
so we kind of talked about the different platforms, YouTube and Facebook, and
Mm,
you talked about Freedom Cardboard, which I jumped on there for a very short time, and I think I jumped on about the time everybody was making the transition
yeah.
over to Facebook and to other platforms. But you and I brought this up to you. It's kind of creepy, but believe tomorrow is your 3-year anniversary in the '90s Facebook group. So
Man, that's crazy when you brought that up to me on the phone the other day. I was like, it's only been 3 years. Like I feel like it's been forever, you know. But yeah, 3 years ago, man. How about that?
yeah, that's nuts. Because I was like, I wonder how long he's been in the group. It's like 3 years old, and so I
Mm.
was doing some research, scrolling back, and I was like, finally found. I was like, wow, that's the 31st. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Do you remember
Timing
what the
wise.
first post was? Was it just like, "Hey guys, I'm an A-Rod collector.
Yeah, I
What's
do.
up?"
It was you had
Yeah.
posted a link, I believe, to your video.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was kind of in conjunction with with this channel too. So it's
Man,
kind of a dual anniversary in a way.
that first YouTube video was rough. I must have said 30 to 40 times in that video, and bless my dad's heart. He came on. We called. He's like, "Son, you gotta stop saying that because I said it way too much." And what that's been super cool to have somebody give me feedback. He asked me for feedback on his music, and then I'm in return. I'm like, "Hey, check this out. Tell me what you think." And it's made me very conscious of not doing that, but also if I can go back and watch my own video and not cringe, then I've done a good job because
There
those
you go.
first few, I don't even watch those first few. I'm like, I delete these, but everybody loves seeing the first video, so
Yeah.
I'll just leave it up there. My lighting was bad, my camera was bad. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Well, I like seeing the evolution of people's channels and where they start off.
Right,
That's kind of fun. It's like going back to the grassroots, which I probably still say a lot. That's just inherent in a Southerner. We can't help that. So
right, but that's
bless
that's
our
cool.
hearts,
That's
right?
right. That's right. Yeah.
So
So
early on in those videos, it was a lot of you displaying your Mel days,
mhm.
your A Rod pickups. I believe you said Nate was, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And um, so what was the process like of going from where you look back at those early videos, whether they're cringeworthy or not, and
Mm.
the progression that the channel's made to this point? Like, what's that process been like
Man.
for you?
Well, I think when I started doing the mail day videos, Nate was a big inspiration. Aaron Davis, those two guys, big inspirations because Aaron showed off the low end inserts and made them look great. He had good lighting. He talked about how much he loved the cards. I've had him on a couple of times.
Yeah,
Just
he's a good
amazing
one.
guy. So I noticed that not a lot of people were doing, and nobody had done A Rod videos. So I'm like, well, I'm the first guy to be showing these cards off, so I don't have to make this unique other than just showing the cards and
Yeah.
talking about why I like them. And so that's what the goal was at the beginning. I go back and think now, like anybody can do a mail day video. So how are
Mhm.
you going to make it unique? Or is your background unique? Do you have SpongeBob videos? Show up at in the middle of videos and that. Like you and I mean Phil's polls kind of got the ball rolling with all
Oh
that, but
yeah.
I like the uniqueness that you bring because you bring in a lot of those stupid memes and gifs that I just love to death. But I think back then it was just about getting the cards on video and talking about them, and it was received decently. I think plenty of
Mhm.
people, they liked seeing the A Rod cards and hearing about my stories from back when he was on the Mariners and why I only like that era of his career. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that was the original goal from the beginning was just to do that. And I want to say that I did what 10 or so videos of just mail day videos. That
Yeah,
was
I
it,
think
right?
so. Yeah, it was roughly that. Yeah, and then so you we see this kind of transition into this well-structured, the Essential Credentials podcast.
Right.
We're coming in and it's not necessarily just about the cards themselves, but it's about the industry. It's about the process. And you start bringing in a lot of people with a wealth of knowledge
Yeah.
and the conversation. That's what I really love about those videos, is just the conversation that you get and people's experiences kind of coming together. So how did that kick off?
That's a really cool story. So back in those days, I want to say we started the podcast in April, so a little less than 2 years ago. I like doing what we're doing right now, but not on air. I like doing video chats with friends and talking about cards. I mean, I call up different people. So I had talked with a couple of people already, and on Facebook group, Greg, or GM Pow as he's known in the Facebook group, I noticed that he had a lot of really cool cards from the 90s. I said, "Hey, you want to chat sometime?" And we did about 3 or 4 video chats. And on the fourth one, he goes, "Hey, I got a cousin who does a podcast about comic books. Why don't we do something like that?" And we were, especially me, I was pretty overly ambitious about the whole thing, and really approached it with a, how can we get people to watch, and how can I be organized? And we brought Rodney on board for some advice, and I got to give him a shout out. He's more organized than I am. I mean, I think he works at a firm, and he presents a lot. So he was very much methodical about how he
Yeah.
wanted it to look, because we were thinking, maybe we bring in 3 people then be involved. But so we approached it in that sense, and tried to do an organized show that brought up topics that people could learn about, just
Yeah.
because that's my nature. I'm a teacher. I like teaching people about things and learning myself. So Greg's idea was to just talk about cards like this, and if people want to watch, they want to watch. So we tried to bridge the gap between those two things at first, and I thought it went really well. Our first episode is one of the most viewed that we had, which is funny because I'm wearing this headset with a terrible microphone, and not good lighting, and so, but it was cool to see where it started, and I had all my notes out about who I wanted on, and the goal at first was to just bring collectors on who had never really been on camera to talk about their collections. Where did it all
Yeah.
start? Show off some cards, and then we just kind of started coming up with themes. I think the Refractor episode was one of my favorites, with Tanner and Nate and Alan. I think it was actually Tanner and Nate and me and Greg, and then we did a couple other themed episodes that were just a lot of fun, as well as having the guest on. So it was kind of one of those, like, bring a guest, come up with the topic, put them together, and
Yeah.
record. So that's kind of where it started, and it was received really well as once we started going, for sure.
Yeah. The aspect of that for me that I really enjoyed was actually putting personalities and people together with those profiles that you interact, on post, and it's just, it's text and you're just reading within what people are saying. And of course we use gifs and other things to kind of share the
The
humor, kind
best.
of put the point across what we're trying to get. But
Right.
just, to see, Rodney would post something and he would share some information and talk about, things that he had updated on Baseball Cardpedia.
Mm-hmm.
And but then to see him have that conversation, you start to see these people, uh, you know, in in their essence of who they are. And I think that's interesting, because that was what I really liked about it was, okay, I've talked with these guys, or we've messaged, or we've had some chats in the group, but
Right.
to really actually see who they are, that was what I like. It brought people, the people to life. That was the real people. So that's what really drew me to the podcast, was just getting. It felt like I got to meet these guys and kind of get a
Right.
sense of who they were. And for a
Yeah.
long time, I was kind of on the peripheral of all that, and so that was just, I really enjoyed that side of it, from the viewer standpoint. So
Yeah, well,
yeah,
I think too, like the goal was to provide content for the '90s group. I mean, the '90s group has gone up 100% in the last 6 months since COVID hit, and but before that, it was in the 500s, and all of us were. And this isn't anything what happens when you get big groups. It just happens. There's less personable interactions, but back then there was a core of like 50 of us that would stay very connected in that group, and it was awesome to bring some of those people in. Alan Hardy as well. He doesn't collect Juan Gonzalez anymore, but I will say that he was awesome to have on the show because he was another guy whose videos I watched. It was just great to put a face to the personality and to the cards that you were seeing, you know. So it was definitely made for the '90s group to begin with, and then from there, it kind of, you know, as I guess I can talk about, it kind of went even further than that as I started having some bigger aspirations for the podcast and how to form it. But the highlight of the podcast, and it was certainly when I was in Chicago last year. That was definitely the high point
Yeah.
in my mind, and one of them for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, kind of jump into that, a little bit with the national and how, that was your first experience. I'm assuming that was your first trip there, so kind of
Right.
take us through kind of what that was like for a first time.
Well, it was really funny because I mean, obviously Alan not funny on his end. I mean, you did you see that episode yet with
Yeah, I
him on there?
did. I did. I wept for him.
There was
Uh,
all three of us that stayed in the same house had different experiences. Alan, that was the low point of his collecting career. You had me, or let's say we'll put Greg in the middle because he was like full bore. I mean, that guy, he went so hard at the national that I think it took him longer to recover than Alan, who was like just heartbroken. You know, yeah, he just, yeah, and I even tried to get him to take breaks. Like, come on, Greg, let's take a break in the VIP lounge, which was just a room with a bunch of tables. I was definitely let down with that, but I finally got him out of there once a day. But he showed me that it's important to maybe take it a bit slower because I just tried to keep up with his pace. I'm like, all right, we're
yeah,
going to this table, we're going to this table. And then me, I left with a pretty important card in my collection, not only because I got it from the national, but because it was such a rare card. And I've shown that many times on this channel, the View to a Thrill out of 10,
yeah,
A-Rod. But and funny enough, that card came from a dad who was a teacher and a son who was going to be a teacher. I mean, it was just kind of poetic in the way
wow,
that it worked out. But yeah, it was a really fun experience because we would do these recaps after every day, and we would do them live, and people would come in and check in on us and say hello, and those are some of the most viewed episodes too. And
yeah,
and we I do have to joke. I told Alan this after we were off air. I left the thumbnail of him looking like Gollum on one of the videos. He's kind of like this, and he looks really funny. He's like, I can't believe you left that up there. You know, he's still upset with me, but like that memory, I remember laughing when I took the picture. I'm like, Alan was definitely using this, and so but it was fun. The camaraderie was there. We had so much fun staying in that house together and sharing those memories and stories. We talked cards for the entire time, and I loved every second of it. And so, yeah, that I'll never forget that either. That's in my card collecting memory bank. It's definitely a top 5 moment. Just
yeah,
sharing it with the guys, which is why I want to add to that by having more guys there. And I will say that Nate was awesome because he set up like a YouTubers get together on the top floor of a hotel where there was like a bar area, and we
yeah,
just all hung out and chatted cards. And I got to meet Ben Franklin, I got to meet Reese. Got to meet Aaron Davis was going to be there, but he wasn't. Unfortunately, he had a death in the family, so I didn't meet him. I got to meet Snoop, who I thought was Aaron Davis. And then I also met those back pages, who I called those black pages on a live stream. So, but I got to meet all those guys and just, again, put a face and a personality to all those
yeah.
collectors. And they were all so friendly and just easy to talk to. And that really kind of let me know that the decision I made to come to the hobby was a really good one.
Well, may not have the opportunity to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I really liked about just kind of getting to experience it through you guys. That was pretty cool. And I'm with you, like with Greg. I've been to one show since the pandemic. We've had some a couple hours away from us, and I left. My neck was so stiff, and it was only for a couple of hours. So I could imagine the several days of doing that.
Dude,
Just
my
taking.
feet hurt so bad. I wore this pair of Ultra Boosts, Adidas Ultra Boosts that I bought when I went out shopping with my dad the day before I left for the national. Like, these things are so cushioned, I'm gonna be floating on air. I literally, the first day we came back, I think we ended up skipping church. Sorry, God, I apologize, but I got in at like midnight, and I hurt so bad. My parents were still tired. I remember waking up on Sunday. I don't think we left the house till like 4. I'm like, we just got to get out of here. But my feet hurt so bad. I mean, I couldn't believe it. But it was also like like a badge of honor. You know, like I
Yeah.
walked around for 3.5 days in that huge room, and I left it all out there. You know, funny enough to say that I left it all on the table for sure.
Well, that's awesome, dude. Well, look,
Yeah.
kind of as we kind of continue talking about the channel a little bit,
Mhm.
one thing that I'm personally interested in knowing about is how the interview with Gene Arena came about.
That was one of the coolest experiences as a collector for me. So there's a channel who, I don't really watch anymore because he's a basketball collector. He had this really cool story where he bought this LeBron gold refractor rookie. Somebody found it in like a flea market or something. This
Wow.
this couple that collects. So anyway, it's got a green logo on YouTube. He's a super stoic guy. Greg and I have talked about this, joked about this. Like he actually interviewed Gene Arena, and he was kind of like, I mean, he's talking to like a woman who designed some of the best cards of all time, her and her husband,
Mhm.
and he's got this like, talk about how, yeah, that's really exciting, that's a great card, so we're moving on. I'm like, dude, like, are you kidding me? Like, let's go. You're talking to the woman who designed PMGs. Like, drink a Red Bull. Let's go. You know. But he started out. He was super friendly. I reached out to him and said, hey, I would love to contact Gene. I would love to dive into the baseball side of things because I don't
Mhm.
want to steal your idea. I would love for you to have her back on and talk basketball, but I want to learn about the baseball sides of things because it was different. So
Yeah.
he gave me her Instagram profile, and I reached out many times before she got back to me, and it was because we weren't friends on Instagram. Like, she didn't follow me, so the
Mhm.
messages were getting filtered out. And so I believe I found her email address. Her and her husband have a website, and I emailed there. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry that I missed these. And we just got talking, said, hey, can you and I do a chat on StreamYard without it being recorded, just to kind of see if we got some chemistry and that we can figure it out and see how enthused about the baseball cards you are. And
Yeah.
we chatted for like 45 minutes. It was just pure bliss for me because I'm like, what about this card? And, what about this? And she was just going into detail about, like, well, we wanted to do things this way. And she joked and she goes, well, what are we going to talk about on the podcast? And I'm like, trust me, we got lots to talk about. And so I hit up Greg and Alan individually. Alan was just like so happy to be invited on the show. And I thought, well, I don't want to bring the guys from the National in here and really, they've got tons of questions about. We got Alan, who wants to learn more about how cards were designed. We got
Mhm.
Greg, who, in my opinion, knows more than I do about the 90s, which I still think he does. He's well versed. And then me, kind of just setting up the questions. And so we just kind
Yeah.
of ping ponged off each other and asked her questions. And it was just like an hour and 20 minutes of pure joy listening to her talk about some of my favorite cards I own and other 90s collectors. I mean, I got to ask you, I never really had a chance to ask, if you don't mind, like,
Yeah.
what was it like watching that episode the first couple times you saw it?
A lot of I would stop it and rewind, back up just to hear things said again because I really wanted to understand it myself because I had just kind of got into the 90s side of it. And a lot of the cards that I collect, um, Javi Lopez doesn't have a lot of the cards that you guys were going after. So just to kind of be introduced to some of those, one, but just to see, like, we always have these ideas like, why didn't they do this way or that way? And we
Right.
kind of come up with these elaborate ideas of what may have happened. And it was just like, oh yeah, you had to turn the sheet the other way or it wouldn't work or something. It's just
Right.
kind of those, like, it's the manufacturing product side of it, or the fact that they designed party invitations,
Right.
and so we have these flashy, beautiful cards that used to be the same kind of materials and foils that would go out into the mail to, come to someone's bar mitzvah or something. So
Look at this
I thought,
PMG.
yeah, I thought that was, I still go back and watch it just to kind of pick up
Yeah.
little things that I may have missed, or just seeing things that she has that she held on to,
Right.
because it meant that much to her. And that's kind of what you could tell between designers. And I don't, I shouldn't say that they don't care about what they do. I don't mean it that way, but
Right.
you could just see the care and the love that she put into the work she was doing, her and her husband both.
Right.
Um, and that has stayed with her, ever since then. So I really enjoy that part of it, knowing like this person really put their heart and soul into this product because they
Right.
wanted it to be good, and they understood that if it looks this nice, it should be difficult to find. And
Exactly.
so I really like that because it really made me start thinking about all the, I like chasing modern rainbows, depending on if I like it, the
Right.
product well enough. But it really made me think, like, do I have to have every serial numbered in this set? When going back, it's just seeing how difficult it was to pull a card like that. And you mentioned the diamond producers. I didn't understand how difficult that card was to pull when I pulled it.
Yep.
I knew it was Griffey, and I knew it was an insert, and I knew people talked about it, but just understanding, geez, this was special to be able to do that. There's guys that's opened tons of boxes and never had um, remotely come close to anything like that. So, you know, that really made me think about just how important what she did was to her, and really how wonderful collecting in the '90s was, in a time that I really didn't get to experience it then. So kind of enjoying kind of seeing it from the backside. But
Man,
it was a great,
right.
great interview. I hope that maybe down the road she'll come back.
I'm
So,
hoping so too. I mean, when this whole thing hit, I had asked her about coming back for part two, but
mhm.
she has a couple kids in college, and they
Yeah,
both are going to be. I think one of her daughters actually is going to be a designer of clothing, which, I mean, big surprise there. Kind of the same thing, but she talked about things just really chaotic, and so I've
yeah,
not really sent too much. I do have to reach out to her again for sure and just thank her again for being on the channel, but I definitely would like a part two, and just trying to, it will be great because I have plenty of people to get feedback from about
yeah,
where should we take this. So that could be a fun idea to kind of bring the channel, back, not back to life, but
yeah,
kind of get things going
yeah,
again here in a few months, is to get her back on and just kind of go into some other sets
yeah,
specifically. But yeah, it was just a pleasure to be able to not only meet her, she's such a kind person, but to hear those stories of those cards that are already carrying such a prestigious uh, name amongst the community, but then to get the design, like when she pulled
yeah.
out that sheet and said, see this piece that is missing here, that's the piece I used to show what we should do for PMG. I was like, oh my gosh, like,
Wow.
it was awesome, dude.
I would love to see her perspective now on where the market's changed. You know, because I believe when you had her on, I mean, cards were going for fairly good prices, but
Right.
it's been since the 2020 boom. You know, they're kind of getting in a way the respect they deserve. Um,
Man, no
I'm
joke.
sure that she's happy that they're kind of coming back out into light for a lot of other people too. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was such a great series, or a conversation with her, such a good interview, and I look forward to it again. So
Hope so,
um,
man. That'd
yeah,
be great.
so tell me a little bit about. I know you do Facebook, you got the YouTube stuff going on, but Instagram is really big in the card collecting community as well. So what's
I
that
mean,
experience been like?
when I got on there and I was posting A Rods, I mean, it was enjoyable. It was more of like, I had Ryan Batnob Cursive on here. He described it perfectly for me one time. He goes, it's like your card album. It's like a digital card album. If you take a lot of pictures the same, it kind of looks like it's in an album.
Yeah,
So I kind of approached it that way at first. Nobody was really posting A Rod inserts other than Kyle. He had already been doing that a little bit, but posting all of his other big time Yankees and Rangers A Rods. But nobody else was really doing A Rods. So I thought, well, this could be fun, give some people things to see. And I actually used Instagram to tease that Gene was going to be interviewed. For a week straight, I posted a Fleer card every day. I'm like, can anybody guess what's going on here? And even Jean, I mean, she messaged me. She goes, I think I know what you're doing, because I've seen these cards before, which was funny. But that was a fun way to start out with Instagram. That's where it began, and I
hmm,
kind of started pulling back on that as I started kind of fading out of collecting A Rod. I started getting into Rick Ankiel just because of his
yeah,
story, and I did that episode with Nate and Greg about having a side PC, and man, that just set me off. I bought so many Rick Ankiel cards in one week, it was almost shameful. But I didn't buy any A Rods, so it kind of balanced out. But I kind of went from there and was started branching out. That's when I
yeah,
really, I think, stopped just saying, okay, A Rod's it. And I kind of got to a point where
yeah,
I just figured, okay, I can't expect to be getting a cool card all the time anymore because it's just unless I want to get base cards, which are fine. I have to find something else that has me motivated to. And it took the pressure off of getting A Rod cards. I needed
Yeah.
it because I remember my desk was over there. I remember winning the EX milestones card out of 42. I was like sweating. I was so nervous. I was like, if I lose this card, I'm going to be beside myself upset. And after winning that and paying way more than I thought, thanks a lot, Samantha Saints. I don't mind calling them out on that one. I know it was them. Uh, so I'm glad I own it, so they don't have to list it for $1 million.
You wouldn't own it if they owned it.
No, I mean, I don't want to throw any hate out there, but after that, I told myself like, this is way too much pressure. I can't collect
Yeah.
like this anymore. I cannot feel the pressure of losing cards. It's not fun. Collecting has to be fun for me. So, like, nobody likes Rick Ankiel, so boom, easy.
Yeah.
And so I just went out and got after that PC, and once that was done,
Yeah.
probably March, April,
Yeah.
COVID shows up, and if you don't mind, I'm just going to transition because I think that
Yeah,
was all
because I was gonna say, collecting Ankiel is a lot like collecting Javi Lopez.
right.
If you want to kind of get an idea of a comparison, but you had been spending all that time collecting 90s cards, and then
Yeah.
Ankiel kind of early 2000, late
Mhm.
90s, early 2000s, but you finally decided to take that dive into modern cards. So,
Yeah.
so what's
Yeah.
that venture been like?
Well, I guess we can talk about that because right after Ankiel came hockey, but we're going to end with that for sure. But yeah, modern cards and Tyler Glass now. That talk about discovering, a whole new world via Aladdin. If you could insert a clip of a movie, that would be it right there. But it was something I avoided and actually talked about with disdain. I would talk with Greg and I would, not complain, but just kind of hate on the rainbows.
Yeah.
Man, I can't believe that I got into doing that. I go back and listen to myself talk about like, gosh, all those cards look the same. Who would want one of those? And here's a Stadium Club Chrome Gold out of 50. Man, I would have never collected that. So
Yeah.
I found a player that I love his passion that he pitches with. Last year, before the shortened season, so I guess 2 years ago,
Yeah.
he didn't pitch very long, but when he pitched, he was like fiery on the mound, and he would curse when he gave up a home run, and he would like pump his fists and scream and yell when he struck guys out. I'm like, I don't see guys doing that much. Like
Yeah.
Max Scherzer is one of those
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
He pitches with a lot of intensity. I'm like, I love that. Like he was tall, lanky. He's a goofy guy, so I liked him off the field. He's very knowledgeable, well spoken, and he threw like my first game watching him. Sorry, he was playing the Braves, and other than the homer he gave up to Swanson, he
Oh, yeah.
struck out Acuna. Then he blew 100 miles an hour past Albies, and I was like, oh my gosh, this guy.
Yeah.
And then he broke off against, I think it was not Adams, who's the right-handed guy, power hitter. Big guys.
Ozuna?
Big, tall, white dude. Austin Riley.
Oh, Austin Riley, yeah.
He broke off this curve that landed right here, and it looked like it was going to hit him in the head. And I got out of my seat here, and I was like beside myself how amazing that pitch was. And it was done right there and then. I went and bought like 5 top Series 1 cards for a rainbow, and it's been all uphill or downhill, however you want to look at it, since then. But it allowed me to discover, aside of collecting that Ryan Scripter and Brent Morrison had been
Yeah.
showing and talking about for months, just, man, look at this design and look at this, like, for instance, this, talking about rainbows, you and I love this set, 2020 Panini Select. I mean, I never
Oh, yeah.
thought, A, I would buy a Panini card, or B, go after a non-licensed rainbow. But, I mean, that set has been just a blast to track down, and it really opened my eyes to, there's actually some pretty uniquely designed cards out there, and it also really helped me dive into collecting a player that plays now who's not on the Mariners, which, sorry Mariners, there's not anybody that I'm like, I just love the way this guy plays. I haven't found that guy yet. So
No, I remember you'd reached out to me about that card because I had found the Freeman, and you were like, "Are you sure that everybody's in the checklist with this?" Because
right.
that was one of those Panini first off the line products, which was I think an online exclusive. I think you had to buy it through their website,
Right.
and I was like, yeah, I think everybody's in the checklist. And that was the first card that I bought for that rainbow. It was the first one that popped up, and it just drew me in. I was like, okay, I've never really went after a series of cards, but I think this is a set that I really like. I think maybe about that time Brent had posted a couple of pictures.
Trevor Bauer. He had a Trevor
Yeah,
Bauer
yeah,
orange. Yep.
yeah, he did. And then he came back later and posted a tribute picture, and then I made like a little meme picture of the guy that's looking back at the girl that's walking by, and so,
That's
so
right.
like he's holding hands with Select, but he's looking back at tribute.
Tribute.
So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's right.
that's so this journey with Glass now. I mean, I know you've been able to pick up some pretty cool cards, and we won't spoil any of those if those are coming
I
up,
only
but
have a couple. Yeah, I only grabbed a couple.
compared to try you know trying to chase down the A Rods compared to chasing down the Glass No cards, was it more of a fun process because you didn't feel that pressure? Um, kind of how did that feel, just difference wise?
I mean, at first, I'll admit there was pressure to me because I have this completionist mentality, and when I decide to collect a player, it gets pretty crazy. And Tyler will be the first to tell you that I was a bit like I was always like, "What about this set? What about this set?" Trying to ask him if he knew about it or saw it. But I think I up until Topps Chrome, I was able to complete that rainbow minus the superfractor.
Yeah,
Once I got the last one in, the red, the second red, I think it was the red wave and the regular red came in within a couple days of each other. I'm like, gosh, I think I probably overpaid for a couple of these. Not many, but a couple because I just wanted to have them.
yeah,
But I realized that I was approaching it a bit too intense.
yeah.
And that's just how I've been with Ankiel and A Rod and now with Glass now. I said, okay, I've got to find a good middle ground here. I've got to find a way to collect with and be okay with letting a
Hmm.
certain few cards be up on eBay and hope that they drop the prices. And unfortunately, he pitched really not well in the World Series, and so there was a little boom in his cards right
Hmm.
when he started Game One. Like the first four innings, people were throwing up everything on eBay, superfractors. I mean,
Yeah.
everything was good. He had given up no runs, and then we all know what happened from there. But
Hmm.
he's been really affordable to collect, so I've learned to be able to wait on certain cards and not overpay. And with modern, I think it's so easy to get caught up. Oh, there's a card out of 50, a card out of
Yeah.
25. Like for 90s, your mentality is just like that card is super rare. But in modern, it's like, wait, hold on. There's a lot of case breakers. At least another 10 to 15 of that card out of 50 are going to show up on eBay within
Yeah.
the next few months. I mean, have you learned that with Freeman too, not being so intense and
Yeah.
going after them
Yeah.
all?
You really kind of have to hold your water when a new product breaks, because
Yeah.
it's just like when I open the Series 1 hockey. If you get a good card and you can get it on there first, you're kind of setting the market. People are, the people that really want that card are going to set that market, and then you see it spike, and then it gradually drops off. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just like with the Allen and Ginter Chrome that's out now. Um, those golds are really beautiful, and so I saw a couple Freeman sell, you know, in the $20-$30 range, and thinking, I'll hold off. Maybe they'll kind of fall off with this, with the off season, which, being an MVP season, he's probably going to hold pretty well. But then
Right.
the next one, the auction went for like 50. So he's really hard to predict right now. I've really kind of
Right.
backed off collecting him just because of the cost
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of there. But yeah, I mean, you do see that. You see with so many breakers, so many things being open on release day, that a lot of stuff's going to show up and trickle in within the first couple of weeks after that product's out. And if you
Right.
can really be patient and wait until the next product release, you really
Mm-hmm.
see a decline in the price of a lot of those cards, especially if they'll go up as auctions. You got a
Right.
good chance to grab a card for a reasonable price. So was that, you know, with collecting Glass now, an A Rod one of one is difficult.
Impossible. Yeah.
Impossible, but
Yep.
but that's an opportunity to be able to kind of have that. Okay, everybody would like to have a one of one just to have that
Yep.
experience. So
Definitely.
having a player that you like and being able to have that opportunity, I'm sure that kind of had to be intriguing as well.
Oh man, it was like again, I had to go to Ryan and you and Brent say, okay, I don't know what like with A-Rod, if I see a card, I can tell you exactly how much it's going to sell for, or pretty darn close. Like Jeremy and I are the same. We'll see a card like, well, that's 150 too much because we're looking at where the market is right now.
Yeah.
And so, but when these cards come up, like especially a 101, you know how it is. You're like, well, I mean, this could be $300 or it could be $30.
Yeah.
And my first 101 I got, I still can't believe it. It's from Museum. Wish I had it out here. I have it in my Glass Now pile because I'm about to do a video tomorrow for the.
We won't
last
spoil
video.
it.
Yeah, but it was from Museum and it was a patch 101. Like, okay, offered $40 and I got it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, so this is a market for a 101. Nice. I mean, it wasn't a super fractor, but it was a
Yeah.
101. I was like, oh my gosh, I just bought my first 101. This is amazing. And never had that experience with A-Rod. The opportunity was there, but I didn't take up the opportunity to do it. So yeah, it's a whole new ball game. No pun intended.
Yeah.
I really have had to re-educate myself on modern, but it also got me caught up too much in like, ooh, the next release. And I mean, like seeing a checklist and seeing Glass on it, I was literally upset when he didn't make like Allen and Ginter. I was really not
Yeah.
happy. But then I realized like, okay, this is a good thing because don't have to have the pressure of grabbing all the cards. And so with Stadium Club Chrome that just came out recently, I grabbed this card here, and that one's too expensive, and this one's nice and cheap, and I join a break for $5 and get a few cards.
Yeah.
And, like that kind of stuff. It's been nice to be excited that he's in a new release, but not feel the pressure of having to get the cards. The only pressure I feel right now is with Top Series 1 because I assume he'll be in that being the number one starter on Tampa now because Blake Snell got traded.
Right.
I can't believe it. But it's they make 1,000 variations of that card. Like that picture on that card will be on that Topps Chrome, Topps Mini, various other Topps flagship parallel products. So if it's a bad picture of him, I'm just going to be like, oh gosh, like please be like in the middle of your pitching motion or like standing with the glove up like he does with the long hair. Like it better look cool or I'm going to be like, oh great.
Hopefully it's not like those 87 Topps pitcher cards that I was looking at where some of them are actually throwing them and some of them are just standing there going.
Yeah, with like the big like bushy hair, like terrible. Yeah, exactly.
Look, we've seen cards from 90s modern all over the place, and of course I definitely want to share this. This has been a great group, and Dustin and Blake, pretty awesome.
Man. Absolutely. I thanks for showing that too, Dustin. First of all, I love that he collects with his son.
Yeah.
We need more of that. I've said that before. It makes my heart warm seeing it, man. And then his super collector group, what he's put together, and he's showcasing different collections, and people are all. I mean, I've had so many people reach out and say, "I'm collecting Tyler Glass now," and Dustin's like, "Yo, me and my son will send you this stack of Glass Nows. If you need them, great. If not, you can help out somebody else." And many people have reached out from that group and said, "Hey, I've got this A-Rod or this Glass Now. Do you need it?" I mean, it's one of the more friendly groups that you can find. So big shout out.
Yeah, he did a cool thing where he did a fire giveaway kind of deal, and he just posted pictures of guys. It's like, hey, just claim it, and you guys, we covered shipping, and so I was able to pick up a few of my Freeman commons that I didn't have that way, and so that was pretty cool. So yeah, really appreciative of them.
Especially when he does his like collection highlights once a week, and he's asked me to do it before when I had my bookshelves back here, and it was just so cool to be a part of that and see other collections. I mean, these people have these amazing collections, and I know sarcastically some could be like, "Well, yeah, it's a super collection group," but you just don't quite understand how much time they've spent putting it together and just how passionate the people are. I mean. There's people from, his son who's in there with his just twins collection to you and me and Nate, and then Jason Vass, who has an entire room downstairs basement of Griffey Coke machine. Griffey, I mean, just things that you like relics from the past that you get to see. Yeah, it's a fun place to go and just see.
Yeah. You get to experience everybody's man cave. It's really cool.
makes me hope that I can have one someday.
Yeah, and I owe Dustin some information. I haven't got back with him, so my bad. I'll get it to you soon.
Oh, hey, that means you're going to be featured, man. I
So
better see one of those pictures of you holding a card, where you're like peeking out like over the. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
we'll do it.
All
We'll
right,
do it.
perfect.
Well, so we're into modern um, now. You kind of dipped your toe in a lot of places. You started off this conversation with getting into hockey
Mm,
as kind of your first
family.
love. Yeah, and so you kind of shifted back to that. Um,
Yes.
so why does collecting hockey mean so much to you? How does that compare to collecting baseball?
Hockey has the least amount of pressure put on it of any sport that I collect. I mean, I had a little bit of pressure when I was super collecting Jocelyn Tebow. I still do, but I have most of his cards that I could hope to ever own. And he gets maybe 5 listed a day on eBay that are new listings.
Hmm.
So it's not one of those things like even Javi Lopez or Alex Rodriguez who has
Yeah,
hundreds. But it's allowed me to go completely back to my roots and create binders of goalie cards. Goalies were my first love ever in a sport, and just have binders of base cards and just look through them like, oh man, I remember that card when I was growing up, and look at the setup on this guy, and then have a binder of modern, and you'll be able to learn about these goalies that are playing now, and say, okay, I want a card of Carey Price because I saw that video of him that I sent you where he
yeah,
met that kid whose mom passed away, brought him on stage at the awards, and I was just like, this guy is hands down one of the nicest dudes in sports. And so finding connections with these players and learning about them, like, oh, dude, his mask is sick. Don't know who he is. I don't know anything about him yet, but I want a card of him. And so I appreciate a wider variety of cards now in collecting goalies than I did with any other collecting experience I have, and that's because I'm not so ultra focused on collecting anybody right now. It's just goaltending and goalies, and I love Marc-Andre Fleury. He's on my team, and he won 3 cups with the Penguins.
yeah.
I love collecting Jocelyn Tebow from the '90s and early 2000s, but I just really kind of focus on finishing the set that I'm working on, which is the Young Guns goalies. I think I'm into single digits of what I have left to get. It's almost done, so I'm really pumped about that, and just
Fantastic,
focusing
man.
on working. Yeah, thank you. Is getting that done, and then using that and my other goalie cards to really get the new channel up and running. But yeah, it's been the least amount of pressure that I've ever felt collecting, and I think we should all try to get to that point in our collecting
Yeah,
lives. And I got to give a big shout out to a few people, like Jeremy, for instance. He doesn't get, like, when he loses a card, he gets over it real fast. I mean, we give him a hard time for being like Squidward. That gif where SpongeBob is throwing up the roses and he's just, you know. But Jeremy is so like calm, and he set a really good. Will's the same way. Will's like, hey, I lost this card, but look at what I have.
yeah,
And Brent talked about that. You talked about, a lot of the people I've had on talk about that. Same with Reese, finding that patience of being like, look at what I have already. Like, I don't have to win that card. Like, it's okay. I lost out on it, but really appreciating everything you have already, and just enjoying the simplicity of collecting again. I feel like I'm at one of the best places I've ever been in collecting wise.
yeah.
It's quite relaxing to feel content this way with collecting.
That that's great, man. And the thing about what, and I've noticed that just with our conversations, like I can tell when you talk about A Rod, and it was you love that, you love collecting and you love those cards, but just listen to you talk about hockey and talk about these different goalies and look at the shots. And I agree with other people's conversations that you've had. Like, images for hockey cards are awesome.
The bee's knees,
I don't
man.
know if it's just because of the white background of the ice, and so that, or what it is in a lot of areas,
Right.
but you've got so many cool angles and different shots, and then that sport tends to be, it seems like that's one that it's like it's always been in a sense for 100 years. The players seem to be very interactive with the fans. They
Mm-hmm.
seem to be just down to earth kind of guys. I don't, I've never really been around a lot of them, but that's something that's appealing to me about the sport.
It
So
definitely seems like they're more connected with the fans. I mean, like, fans come down, and the kids hold up signs against the
yeah,
glass, and they come down and tap it with their stick or wave at them. Or I just see more of that in that sport than any other sport, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I love the authenticity that it has still. It hasn't become so big in the United States that it's the players are larger than life. Like if you see Russell Wilson walking down the street, there's gonna be a lot of people going after him for a picture. But
Yeah.
if you see Carey Price walking down the street, A, nobody's going to know that's him. B, unless he's in Montreal, of course.
Yeah.
B, if you went up to him, you'd probably want to go up and say, hey, Carey, love watching you play. How's the hunting trip going? Because he'd
Yeah.
probably be here hunting or fishing in Sitka. But it just, and they wouldn't mind it. They're like, oh, okay, this is great. I like that people admire me because of what I do and
Yeah.
because of all the hard work I put in. So, yeah, I agree with you on that. It definitely has its own unique aspect in that way.
Well, it's definitely something that's growing in our household,
I'm
for
happy
sure.
about that.
Which we've
Quite
always had
happy
a
about
little
that.
bit. Birmingham is secretly a Southern hockey staple. A lot of people don't know that, but dating back into the late '70s. But we've had some pretty sweet minor league teams. We've had some pretty crazy guys like Steve Durbano that spent some time there. That dude, I don't know if you've ever read anything about. You need to go YouTube Steve Durbano after this.
Was he like the Wolf Stanson from Mighty Ducks? He like played
Yeah,
for a year, but he punched out his
he's
own
the
coach.
goon. Yeah, man.
He's the
Like,
gun.
yeah, for real. Like,
Did they get the
super.
movie Goon from him?
Um,
Because I
There's some
remember based
movies that were
upon
made
that.
after him.
Yeah.
Narcos shows. He's a wild dude. The Slapshot
Yeah.
actually is based off of that last year.
Oh,
That
jeez.
those guys in Birmingham. But anyway,
Unbelievable. I
that's
didn't
a
know that.
conversation for another day. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's So talk about the channel, the new channel.
Yeah, Pope checking cards. Yeah, I put some hockey content on Essential Credentials, and I mean most of the subscribers are baseball guys, so a few of you are nice enough to be go on there and say, oh cool, I learned something new about hockey. But then I got some hockey people coming over, so I thought I'm really into hockey this year. I've
Mhm.
never been more excited about a season starting than I am this year. I got back into fantasy hockey. I'm listening to podcasts about goalies and fantasy hockey to learn about these players again because I've been out for a few years. And so I thought, well, if my heart is really there in hockey, I want to do hockey content and try to find a couple of different, themes that are not on YouTube yet. One of them being Beyond the Crease, where I find a player who doesn't play in the NHL anymore, who was a great prospect, but just didn't get the time. It's just
Yeah,
like any other sport. They got this great pitching prospect who injures himself, never plays, or basketball just doesn't get the opportunity,
yeah,
or in football, been a backup quarterback for so long, never gets on the field. So I thought it would be really cool to highlight some of them. So I can't wait to do that first episode next Thursday. Really exciting, and also because the goalies that these are going to be on, many of them are on Instagram, and I've reached out to the first one that's going to be on the channel. Say, hey, I hope you enjoy this, and maybe get a chance to have him on a podcast style interview
yeah,
to dive deeper into his career and have him tell his story or them tell their stories. I just think that that's something that's not on YouTube in a sense, and it would be really fun to do. And then also, of course, the mail day videos, but not just showing off cards to say, okay, here's some cards, have a great day, but
yeah,
to more or less put it out there because there's no real goalie collectors only on YouTube, and to kind of dive into the picture of the goalie making this card awesome, or maybe talk a little bit about the player itself on the card more than just here's a card out of 50 next type
yeah.
thing. So
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to that. I'm really excited about that. And that's one thing I've noticed with just the conversations I've had with people in the hockey community is, like my channel. I've had like two videos that are hockey videos, and they have the most views,
yeah,
the most likes. People commenting left and right, like, yeah, congratulations on this pull or that pull, or it's just that community is really, really close knit, really interactive.
absolutely.
So I probably have more subscribers north of the border than I do within the states. But
Well, like real quick, I mean, you said the community, right, with the hockey community, and I've been telling you about this too. The When I went over to Instagram and created my Tomcat sports cards, that nickname came from Tom Barrasso, by the way, because his nickname was Tomcat, and
yeah,
I love Top Gun, so that was an easy choice for a name. I felt like that was an easy decision, but also getting on there, and I got to give Ryan Batnob Curse a huge shout out. He was a huge motivator in me deciding to make an Instagram for hockey. I have had more people than ever reach out to say hello, reach out to say, I got this Tebow, I got this Alex Burrows card, I got this goalie card. I would like to send it to you. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? Like, nobody ever did that in baseball, like
Yeah.
beyond like Dustin. So I have, it has been the best choice that I've ever made in collecting beyond reaching out to you guys and meeting all you. But the best choice I made with hockey is going on Instagram and just, first of all, going to their pages and their posts and commenting and having discussions on private chat. Everybody is just so friendly and so kind, and that's going to spur kind of something similar to a podcast, but it's going to be different. Me and Ryan Batten Up Cursive have talked
Hmm.
about doing like a round table discussion where, whether it's me for an episode or Ryan or another friend of ours
Yeah.
is the one that's sending the questions out, and we all just kind of are talking about it back and forth. So in a sense, kind of like the Essential Credentials, but maybe having a different feel, a little bit less organized, but giving us a chance to provide content for the Instagram community of hockey as
Cool.
opposed to a Facebook group. So I'm quite looking forward to starting that up here as well, because there's a lot of knowledgeable people, and I guarantee after listening to some of them, you're going to really have a tough time not being like, all right, hockey, here we go.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty much bought in. I've always enjoyed it. I just, in terms of collecting, I haven't done as much, but I've always really enjoyed the sport. Even
Mm-hmm.
prior to '98 with the Predators coming to Nashville, um, it just having it locally. But do want to say hello to Aaron. Thanks for
Hey, he
dropping
made
in.
it. Aaron,
Yeah.
I gave you a nice shout out earlier. I hope you're able to go back and watch that, man. Your Sheffield videos were some of my biggest inspirations. So especially with the gloves, man. I forgot to do a tribute video with the gloves. I always loved how he did that and kind of laughed about it. But his videos are, I don't know if you've watched them, Ryan, but Aaron Davis has some really good content, man.
Oh
Like his
yeah. No,
early
no. I love
videos.
it. Like his enthusiasm. He goes in and he's like, "Oh, check this card out." Him and Nate were doing some stuff
Hmm.
not too long ago, and
Yeah,
he
they
was in his
were. I missed
garage,
that.
and it was like, "Oh, here's a box. I got like 5 of these." He didn't know, and I was like, "This is crazy. This is just
Yep.
someone who really enjoys collecting."
That dude,
Um,
he when he says wow, when he and he's probably already looked at the card 5 times, but that is a perfect example of a person who enjoys what he has.
yeah.
He might post a new pickup, but he spends as much time enjoying the cards that are already in his collection. And so I
Oh yeah.
definitely recommend everybody look up Aaron Davis on YouTube, man. I like that dude's.
Most definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Here's a little love to Brasso there.
Yeah, that's right, man. Yep, it's he an American goaltender for one, and a heck of a player and a good coach as well. I would love the opportunity to just sit down and have a chat about hockey with him, because he just seems like a very knowledgeable, especially when you're a coach. I mean, you just understand all aspects of the game. Like if I was going to have somebody help me understand the game to the extent
Yeah.
that I understand basketball, that would be a guy I would go to. Like, all right, Tom, let's sit down and have a couple beers and run through some different things and help me understand the game. That'd
Yeah.
be great.
And the only yeah, it would be really awesome to have that kind of conversation with someone locally. With our minor league team.
Right.
Uh, there's some guys that have played that are back as coaches. So I'm sure guys who have had that experience and now they're in the box and they're trying to direct traffic from the box is
Yeah.
pretty interesting because
Yeah.
just I learn something every day about hockey that's just it's so fascinating and interesting. Just learning the rules one is can be difficult enough, but
Mm.
understanding what they're doing through the line changes and offense and defense and um,
Right.
it's incredible what those guys have to
Yeah.
do. And
Wait till you start
um,
playing NHL 21 on your
oh,
PlayStation with your
I started
boys.
today.
It's a lot to take in,
It's
man.
difficult.
Yes, it's. We were just talking about that. I,
Mhm.
of course, like to make things as difficult as I can on myself. So just like with baseball games, you're a player and you play through your career. I'm like, I'm going to be a goalie. Yeah, talk about picking like the hardest position in the game to learn how to play on a controller. Because in my mind, I'm like, react to the right. The shot's coming from the right, but then they pass over to the left, and I push left, and
Yeah.
too late, and the puck goes in. You're like, I tried, So it's very it's a very challenging experience, but one that's helped me appreciate like learning a position of a goaltender and how far out or back in the crease you need to be in, and when to drop to the knees and when to stand up. And yeah, lots of things to learn, but it's definitely helped me appreciate the
Yeah.
finer points of the sport for sure.
Yeah, if you want to learn about hockey, the NHL rules, 21 is, I think it was designed for that reason. It's very insightful.
Yeah.
And it is difficult. I can't tell you how many tripping penalties I've had.
Yeah, that's
It's
the worst when you're playing goaltender and you see the guy goes like this and like strip, like come on, man, like so blatant. But yeah, no, it's I'm all in, man. I was just sitting. I woke up yesterday and I watched the American team play the Czechs and put a whooping on them. But it was just fun to wake up and be excited to
yeah,
watch hockey. I don't think I've been this excited to watch hockey for a really really long time, and I think that everybody I know a lot of baseball fans could probably agree that when
yeah,
baseball season was going on last year, I know I was when Tyler Glasnow would start, I'd wake up nervous in the morning because it was just like I get to see him pitch. Here we go, baby.
yeah,
It's fun.
yeah. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to, what is it, January 13th?
Yep, January
Something.
13th, man.
Yeah,
Penguins play that day too,
yeah.
and the divisions are going to make things really tough. It's going
It's
to
gonna
be
be
playoff hockey
nuts.
every game,
Yeah,
and obviously really excited to talk about the goaltenders. I know that there's always the NHL website does 3 stars of the week, and I plan on doing my own version of that for
yeah,
goalies and using their cards to tell you who I'm talking about, but then have the little stats pop up on a little blurb on the video. And so I've got some really fun ideas planned for the channel, and I'm trying to find a way to maybe get it out to people who maybe don't know a lot about hockey but can appreciate the cards themselves. And
yeah.
a lot of people that I've met prior to this, so that'll be
Awesome.
great.
Well, it's Poke Checking Cards is
That's
the
it.
name of the channel. So you guys check it out. We already got some content up, and I'm
I
looking
do.
forward to the growth of seeing this channel grow, and the progression it's going to make, and hopefully maybe you can get some of those interviews. That would be really nice.
I've already got a couple, or excuse me, one that I know I've got lined up with a goalie who is one of the only 2 British goaltenders to ever play
Oh
in the
wow.
league. I'm become friends with somebody who works with his wife and with that goaltender's
Cool.
wife, so the connection is there, and I'm quite excited to. I mean, for me, just learning the sport, to sit down, just like I was talking to Gene, just to sit down and be a sponge and learn about
Mm,
this player's career and also about the sport in general, more detail. So yeah, should be
fantastic,
fun.
man. I can't wait.
Yeah, thank
Well,
you.
you want to jump into the rapid fire?
Let's do it. Let's do it, man.
Awesome. So here we go. So the rapid fire questions, many of you know these are the same questions asked to each guest on the podcast. So let's go with number one. Top 3 pickups of 2020.
So I have an A Rod, I have a hockey card, and I have a glass now. So we'll start with the A Rod here.
All right.
This was a card that Bo Carter sold me, and I missed out on this because I was teaching a lesson in the morning. So I think I had a valid excuse, but it's the
At the work.
1997, yeah, I know, right? Flair autograph glove redemption.
Oh
And
gosh.
these were like one out of 25,000 packs or something. And obviously there were 25 of these put into production, put
Wow.
into packs, and who knows how many of them are still out there or even redeemed. I've never seen the glove, but Jean promised that when she finds out she will let me know, so that
Wow. So hand numbered, and then you would redeem it for, is that an authentic, is it just a model of his glove, or is it
no.
is,
So actually the numbering on the back was put on there after the card was sent in, but what's weird
ah,
is there's no there's no information on here, so I really don't know the full
yeah.
story of this card. But yeah, it basically talks about that there was a. It doesn't say if it was a fake glove or not. I assume it was just like maybe one of his reproductive gloves. Hey, what's up? What's up, dude? Uh, but you were going to get a glove that had his autograph on it, and so I would love to see what one of those looks like. I mean, to own one would just be completely ridiculous.
Wow.
But yeah, what an amazing card to own in an A-Rod collection. I've always thought that I would love that card because my philosophy was always like a well-rounded collection. You got a base card binder, you've got some medium inserts that were still tough back then, and then
Hmm.
you've got these high-end, like just astronomically tough cards from the 90s. So this card kind of solidified that for me, or
Wow.
put a button on the A-Rod collection
Yeah.
before I got into hockey. So before I do that, I will show you. Talked about picking up one-on-ones. This was the one of the last big cards of Glass now I got, and I've been able to get the the finest flashbacks, partial rainbow. I got everything except the super, and I'm like, I'm never gonna see that card. Whatever. Well, it showed
Yeah.
up for a really high price. I'm like, I just didn't even think about it. I saw it. I'm like, yep, move on. It was like $800 or best
Wow.
offer. I'm like, yep, nope. So he kept dropping the price, and I reached out to him. He was a big breaker, I think, in not Phoenix, but he is in the East Coast. He was a big breaker. He's broke boxes for Phil Hughes, but he didn't
Yeah.
record this box
Wasn't
for
Houdini,
himself.
was it?
No, it wasn't that. He's not that big, but he's Cardsmith Breaks, I believe it was called.
Oh, Sam.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
he's in
him.
Sacramento. Yeah.
There you go. Oh, so he is on the West Coast. All right.
Yeah.
So I reached out. I said, hey, I have everything but this card for the rainbow, even the red out of 5. I was like, where can we go with this? This would be like a perfect Christmas present to myself. And he goes, I really want you to own this card. I said, make it reasonable. So it was less than 300. I'll tell you that. But there it is. It's the
Wow.
I'll
Gosh.
grab it. It's too good for the camera though. But yeah,
So
it's the Superfractor finest flashbacks. Yeah.
for a '90s collector who's moved into modern, this can't be a more perfect card.
I would love to see you own the Freeman someday,
Oh
but
gosh.
I don't think I've ever seen that card pulled. But
No.
that would just be. I think for me, that's the best set that Topps did this year, and so I hope they do 94 finest flashbacks next year. They would be silly not to, because that
Yeah.
product was absolutely off the charts in
Yeah.
popularity. Because
And
the
it
inserts were the only one you were going to get for sure was one regular refractor,
yeah,
which
they
ended up
they
being
tried
about
to create
50.
some rarity with that. Yeah.
Yeah, they did for sure. It was so cool to see. And then because I talked about building the Young Gun set, and a card that I had to move a lot of my Ichiros to make sure I got
Mhm.
was the Marc Andre Fleury Young Guns rookie card, and it is the toughest goaltender rookie card Young Guns to find. It is
Wow.
very very expensive, and I found an ungraded easy 9. I joke about that all the time with my buddy Tyler. 9 should be a 10. It's an easy 9 if I ever do decide to get it graded, but for me, I never would even dream of owning this card because
Wow.
it is the pinnacle of goalie Young Guns cards. And when I decided to go buy this card, I was so excited, and it right before the whole shipping thing slowed down. So
Yeah.
thankfully things got under control, or were under control when this card was on its way from Canada.
Wow.
So
That's an incredible card, incredible pickup, and um, even most people know who Marc Andre Fleury is, even if you don't even watch hockey. And such a great guy in goal.
he
And
needs to come back to Pittsburgh before he
yeah,
retires. My dad wants him to wants Seattle to get him the Kraken, have him play there, which I wouldn't be opposed to. Obviously,
yeah,
that would be like the second coolest place. But he looks great in those Vegas colors. My boy Tristan Jarry is gonna man the net for the Penguins. So,
yeah.
well, unless he falters, then they should just trade for him and get him back. But we'll see what happens.
Pull the trigger, right?
All right, please. Yeah,
Awesome,
so those would be my top 3 pickups
awesome, man.
of the year. It was kind of an easy choice. I wanted to kind of go all across the board, and those were the 3 that stood out to me.
Sweet. Those are 3 great cards. I know that's kind of a hard decision to make, but in a
Hmm.
way, but those are some fantastic pickups, man.
Thank you.
So what was the biggest steal of 2020?
This isn't like a major card or anything, but in terms of where the 90s has gone, I mean, you know that any 90s card number to 50 or less is
Hmm.
really, really tough to find, A, and B, shouldn't be cheap. Even if it's of, who's the guy? Willie McGee. I always use him.
Yeah.
But, somebody like that, or Joey Cora. But some guy, and Jeremy was able to get a cool card out of this too. Somebody listed the standing ovation with the one that I didn't have. The other one was fairly expensive for
Oh
me, but the
wow.
standing ovations are out of 50, and he listed it for $5 and free shipping. And here's the kicker: he put it up for free shipping, and he sent it with tracking. So this literally actually only
Wow.
cost me $1.20 or $1.80. So I was completely floored by that, and super cool to cross off a subset parallel. I mean, these cards are not in the best condition. None of them are, because they chip really bad.
Yeah.
But to get a numbered A-Rod that I didn't have for pretty much $2, yeah, that's not going to be topped by any
That's
card.
definitely a win-win. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, dude.
Congratulations on that find.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was exciting. 'Cause that's where I'm at now with the A rods. I have some of those numbered parallels and a couple cards that I feel like are probably unobtainable for
yeah,
me at this point,
yeah. I know what you mean.
and that's
Yeah,
okay.
this A Rod back here. I don't know if
A
I can
rod
see
for
that.
Hall of Fame,
Yeah,
baby. If that ever happens, like I'm done collecting A rod. Like, all right, it's been a good run.
it's going out the roof, right?
Yeah, yeah. He's
Well,
got a lot of potential to grow, but don't tell anybody, right?
exactly. I know there's some other people listening that's in agreement with you.
For sure.
So, what was the most unexpected card of 2020?
I think in general, getting into hockey was the most unexpected thing. I never expected that to happen, and I don't even, other than like seeing Batnob Cursive Ryan posting things, and also my friend Dave Amish Dave Archer. I was like, oh, here it comes. They're kind of pulling me in. I do want to say, I wish I grabbed this. When I made my ComC order, I ordered one Jocelyn Tebow card. No idea why. I mean, the deep down, I guess I knew it was coming eventually, but I ordered this masked Marvels card, or Painted Warrior, sorry. And
Mhm.
it was a die cut card with the mask at the side, numbered on the back out of 2,500. It was a Donruss card.
Yeah.
And so I ordered that way back when I ordered my first batch of A-Rods, and I've had it ever since. And so when I decided to start buying some hockey cards, I bought a few Barassos, and I was like, that'll be a fun little side thing, and I'll come back to A-Rod or
Hmm.
whatever. But I remember, and in baseball, PMG is probably number one, and then Crusade is number two, and right underneath it would be the Mirror Golds from 96 Select, right?
Yeah.
I mean, those are like
Yeah.
just Mirror Golds, Blues, Reds, monstrous cards. I went and looked up Jocelyn Tebow, and this card was on eBay from, I believe it was ComC or somebody, Burbank or somebody
Yeah.
had this card. And I was like, well, or I think it was Blowout actually. Blowout has cards for sale. I'm like, well, geez, a Mirror Gold BGS 9. Like, if that was A Rod, that would
Wow.
be like $1,000. I got this card for 15 bucks.
Jeez.
And I was like, okay, hold the phone. If a card out of 30 of a goalie that I love is 15 bucks, I am diving all the way in. So that set off the chain reaction of collecting 90s hockey and Jocelyn
Wow.
Tebow. And I just was shocked at the prices of hockey. I'm like, this is completely ridiculous. Does this make any sense?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, there's 30 of those that were ever made. Yet I can get that for 15 bucks, and I was able to go get another one ungraded that I could peel and enjoy it in all its glory for like 10 bucks, 9 bucks. So
Wow.
I just completely floored that I decided to go to hockey, to be honest, but that card set it all off
Man,
for sure.
that's incredible because you know a 96 for me. I mean, there's not an opportunity with Javi's not in the set.
That's a good
So
thing, trust me.
yeah, well, I understand looking at prices, but just wanting to see one is it is the finish the same on those? Is it a little different?
Nah, these are definitely different. They have kind of a pebbly texture to them, like
Hmm.
very subtle. But then the edges, as you saw, the edges are not. I can go back here with my light. The edges are not gold on the
Ah,
edge
okay.
here. So that is all gold in baseball, rather than just the
Yeah.
inside of it being gold. But yeah, it's
Okay.
got this like pebbly texture to it, man. It's really cool, and I definitely want to say you can get almost any player, even the big guys, other than like Lemieux, Gretzky, Pavel Bure, Brett Hull, Dominic Hasek, Patrick Waugh. Those guys are really expensive, Brodeur.
Yeah.
But if you want to just see what one looks like there's a Tebow out there for like 10 bucks right now on eBay.
Wow.
There's guys out there. Oh yeah, Carter Hart. He was my first. I almost grabbed that card. He was my first big Young Guns I bought, and I'm glad I got it when I did because the
Yeah.
card's value has gone up by 20 bucks already. So
Wow.
yeah, everybody's really high on him. But yeah, I'd say 90s hockey. There's some really cool stuff out there for cheap for now. I mean, it's
Yeah.
starting to creep up into the baseball prices, but maybe we got another year before that happens.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it seems like I tend to get into things right at the wrong time. I'm not ahead of the game. But,
Yeah.
so, kind of looking back on 2020, I know you try to stay away from the negative as we
Hmm.
discussed, but is there something that was there a big disappointment to you?
Yes, there was because I made one of the worst financial decisions of my life because of this set. Let's play guess the card, think back to when COVID hit, maybe a month and a half in, and think about what cards went completely unrealistically out of this world into the outer space toward the
Oh
moon.
gosh,
You know where I'm going, right?
I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
So I only have two still, and I have these two because A, Brent loves this Matt Taylor's designs, and B, because of the swag of the picture.
Oh, I
So
know where you're going now. Never
so
mind. I figured it out.
here's a Topps project
Oh
card.
yeah.
I get quite upset just looking at it, not because I don't like the way this card looks. I love the way that card looks, and also when you talk about swag, can anybody top that guy in baseball?
Oh wow.
Come on, that dude looks like you just knew he was going to be an amazing player, right? At that picture,
Tag on hat was so 90s.
I mean, right, for sure. But I had a few of those cards, and I actually sold a couple at some decent profits. But I bought a really expensive one, expecting Jeremy, this is for you. I know. So I definitely made a terrible decision, and I don't want to talk about the price, but it was a lot. And the card, by the time I got the card in hand and was able to sell it, I lost like $600 on the card. So that, and the fact that I had the first card that was ever made, which was Ichiro, and resold it at $90, thinking, "Wow, what a profit!" Yeah, whoop, that card's $1,000 now. So,
Wow.
and when it peaked, it was at like 3,500. But that also, produced a lot of people to do the scratch the case, return the card, and
Yeah.
get their money back. And it happened to Ryan Scripter.
Yeah.
And shame on you, who you are, if you ever watch this podcast. I actually messaged him and said, you know what, at least admit to me that you did it, because be a man about it. And of course he didn't. I was like, fine, it's over with. But there was just it was a negative part in the hobby, and I absolutely hate that set with a passion now. I hate it because I was going to put the Don C set together, and I was like, he's going to do all gold cards. They're going to look awesome.
Yeah.
But Frank Thomas was paper. It looked terrible, and his cards were just sorry, Don. They were not good. They were not beautiful designs, and so I completely fell out of love with that set. And
I couldn't do it. I just couldn't get on board with it. It
Good
was.
choice.
I don't know. I guess I was so tired of so many releases. Tops Now, Tops on Demand.
Which I like now, by the way. Like,
well, yeah.
With Formula One, like we haven't talked about that. That's been fun, but you're right. It was just too much.
I think there was so many things out there that I was like, not something else to chase or go after. And I was so focused on Lopez. But anyway, I'm with you. I agree. That was kind of, for some people, it wasn't a disappointment if they flipped them. But I know for a lot of people, it was rough.
But it was
they're still going. I've seen some new releases.
They're done. They just finished up.
Did they finish? Okay.
They did. But it was me listening. I was on a Discord channel. I was listening to advice. Buy the Willie Mays Andrew Thiel card. Which, by the way, ironic enough, if I was going to do the set now at the cheap price, his would be the one I would put together. It's like, geez, I should have just kept the Mays and just put the whole thing together. But it was really me listening to advice of uninformed people making predictions on prices. The market's going to keep going high. I'm like, I made a really poor decision. And Alan was a great friend in the sense that he goes, Matt, don't ever listen to people like that. Look at the trends. There's no way it'll sustain itself. And so I learned a very important lesson that day, and I will never, ever. It's so tough for me to buy a card to invest in a card. #invest. I can't approach collecting that way because, let's be honest, it's a crapshoot. Still is.
Yeah, but you do have this to look forward to.
Yeah, well, I want to break a box of it so bad, but it started out, it was like $100. It's like $300 a pre-order box. So I will probably have to join group breaks and maybe buy some packs or something. But I am very excited about collecting this guy because he's not at Ferrari anymore, but all his cards will be in a Ferrari suit. So
awesome.
I'm slowly waiting for it to come out. It's been delayed, so it might not happen for another month or two, which is fine by me. Less and less to spend money on.
Yeah, of course. Well, and I'm curious, just how we saw the trend with the price uptick so much this year, and now with another rollout of stimulus.
Which could be more than 600. I mean, not to be crazy, but he's trying to push for $2,000, which I mean, if collecting wise, I don't want to talk about anything else regarding that, but collecting wise, that could really do some crazy things to the market, man.
Well, We'll leave that at that for now.
Yep. Next.
Yep. All right. So if someone was to come over again, I've heard you phrase this question to a couple guys. So
Tyler Glass, now curveball at Tyler.
yeah, time to bring the hook. So someone was to come over and they knew you, but they didn't know this side of you. How would you describe the room that you're in to them?
You're going to see something that's going to artistically be fun to see, because I have an aesthetic that I tend to go for with cards that I display on the shelf. So you're going to see, a lot of really neat designs, even if you could care less about cards. And you're going to see a collection that how do I put this? This is a tough one. That's gonna create a lot of questions that I'll be happy to answer. How about that?
That's good. No, because I mean, it's like just from watching videos with you and looking in the background, it's like you got the Formula One and you got some basketball and you got the hockey, and it's just, it's just like a lot of us, we just enjoy sports, and this is just a way to connect to it. But
Right.
the specifics of how you collect is so interesting.
Thanks.
So that's pretty cool. I'll enjoy that
Yeah.
part of it a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that I could just say. Side note: there's so many people out here that I've talked to. Of course, Jeremy and Andy, Will, Tyler. We talk all the time about like just going and hanging out and looking at each other's collections. Like, I wish I could bring all mine to your house and we could all just sit down and be like a couple of 10-year-olds looking at each other's cards. Like, look at this and look at this and look at this and oh my gosh, let me see that. Like that would be awesome to be able to experience other people's collections just as much as looking at our own, because we look at those all the time. So
of course, yeah, that would be fun.
One day is going to happen.
Oh,
We'll go to a hockey game or something and then spend a night looking at cards. That'd be great.
I have to ship our cards ahead.
I'd have to bring like my favorites in a suitcase and just keep them like this on the plane, like nobody even look at them.
Yeah, it's the Allen mentality. One suitcase.
Dude, he's got it. He's got it figured out.
Yep, he sure does.
He's got it figured out.
So, there's my bad.
Yeah.
Most sentimental card in your collection.
I'm going to show two because they're from the same set. And this is a shout out to my dad. I talk about this card all the time. We'll start with this one. Went into the SeaTac Mall. Any of you ever been to Seattle, you know what mall that is. It's right by the airport. They used to have a card shop right as you went in, one of the entrances, right to the right.
Awesome.
And we go in there right before we went and saw, this is going to be sad but funny. My dad goes, do you want to see Independence Day, which I love that movie, or The Hunchback of Notre Dame? Which one do you think I picked as a 10-year-old? Yep.
I'm going to assume Hunchback.
He's gonna never let me live that down, and I don't blame him, because that movie Independence Day was awesome. But
you should pick up a Quasimodo relic now.
Anybody wants to get me a gag gift, I'd be happy to put that behind me on my videos. But here comes the Quasimodo clip. Like, so we go into the card shop, and a new release had just come out called Metal Universe, and we were looking through the singles boxes. And this Griffey card came out right here, and it had a really high price tag on it. But isn't that just not one of the coolest 90s cards ever made?
Gosh, yeah, I love that card. So, I had never owned one of those, and I bought a box of stuff. But anyway, it was in there, and that's an awesome card.
I mean, these cards were sick. And, I mean, just with the glasses and the turquoise hat, it was just perfect. And so it had like a $10 price tag on it. My dad's like, sorry, son, I can't afford this card. We ended up going by, and my dad, just being excited like me, he's like, you got to get that card, son. Put a couple of those back. And so he bought me that card, and this is the card from
awesome.
my card shop, and it's in a case that it belongs in. So that set I fell in love with. And fast forward to Christmas that same year in 1996, he shows up with 8 packs of Metal Universe. And my favorite player was Joey Cora at the time, and I didn't have the Joey Cora. And we both said before I opened the packs, he goes, wouldn't it be crazy if Joey Cora was in there? First pack, this exact card was in the first pack. I stood up, I high-fived my dad, I hugged him, we screamed, we yelled over this. And this is a card that you can get for 15 cents if you want or whatever. I mean, it is not expensive, but to have the original card that we pulled, it's got a little bit of not surface damage, but edge damage, because it's been well loved. That is hands down. Yes, I agree. That is hands down the most sentimental card. It means more to me than any other card that I own. And if I were to sell the whole collection, these two cards would never leave. I would put them in a box and seal them up and never let anybody see them again if it came down to it. But yeah,
That's
those
fantastic,
cards
man.
bring. I've mentioned that
Yeah.
Joey Cora card probably more than any other card in my collection.
No, I love hearing that story because it's a great story. And I didn't know it was Christmas when you opened them.
Yeah, the Christmas when I opened the well, he came to visit for Christmas, so I think it was the night after Christmas. He showed up on the 26th.
Okay.
But
Awesome, dude. That's a
yeah,
fantastic story. And I love it because most everybody that's shown the cards that are sentimental, they're typically some commons,
hmm
but we all have them in a nice case.
yeah, we
You know,
do,
it's
we
pretty
do.
cool.
That's right.
Well, what excites you most about the hobby right now?
Oh, this is friendships, hands down. I get more excited when you or Tyler or Brent or somebody. Let's see if I can fix my camera here. Here we go. Say hey, let's chat cards for an hour
Yeah.
on Streamyard, like offline, or doing a podcast, doing an interview, or just messaging about cards. It's the friendships that excite me more than anything else. I mean, yeah, I get excited that Formula One's got some cards coming out, or when Tyler Glass now gets a new card and a new set, or I pick up a monster edition. Those are all really exciting, but long term happiness comes from the friendships that I've made in the hobby.
Yeah,
Easy
I
answer.
agree. Of course, yeah, I agree with you, man. It's been such a fun time to collect. I enjoyed collecting, but I've enjoyed it a lot more now that I've met a lot of people, and getting to kind of spend that time, you know, just chatting and hanging out. And because a lot of us have mentioned it, there's just not people around us that maybe do that. So having be able to have a sense of community and create those connections has been invaluable to a lot of us. So it's pretty awesome.
Right. It's what sustains us, man, because
Yeah,
you're not going to always have a big card coming in. You're not going to
yeah,
have, a new pickup on eBay you're bidding on all the time. I mean, you can, but it's not what's going to give you that. Like when a card comes in, it's great, but then you're not going to have that same feeling last beyond
yeah,
seeing it a couple times. But this kind of stuff, you always have something to look forward to in
yeah.
that sense. So, yeah, easy
Yeah.
decision on that one.
Oh yeah. So, if there's something in the hobby right now that you're just, look, I've got to make some changes, like I've got a magic wand, I can make this happen, what would that be?
I mean, for a couple reasons. I think the prices of boxes. Not that I break boxes anymore, but I used to break 90s boxes here and there.
Yeah.
But like even my buddy and even Tyler, he used to love that, and he talked about he can't do that anymore other than flagship, which is also going to be over $100 for a hobby box. Which I mean,
Insane.
I don't complain about much, but that's ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous because
Yeah.
not only is it keeping a lot of us out of the hobby, but some of us want to get the kids involved. And your son
Yeah.
is not going to want to collect hockey if you go to the card shop and a box of Upper Deck Series 1 is 120, $130. Like, that's just not affordable in a setting like that. And so then you result to like retail, which is I've gained an appreciation for retail
Hmm.
because of the hobby box prices. And a shout out to, you and Tyler and Bob and these guys that go to the stores and look out for hobby retail for me or hockey retail. It's awesome. Just opening a pack. So there is a flip side of that, but yeah, the
Yeah.
price not just of the hobby, but just the price of boxes. You're taking away a lot of what made the hobby a hobby for kids, and because the prices are so outrageous, and now the group breakers and all them, it's geared toward them, and no hate
Yeah.
against that because I've certainly joined my fair share of group breaks, but it's disappointing. It's
Yeah.
disappointing where it's got to with that.
Yeah. And, I think as maybe the opportunity for more product to be released, because I don't know how much the pandemic has affected production quantities.
hmm
We can't find toilet paper, so I'm sure they're looking for cardboard for cards. Um, but just you're right. The companies, they know their businesses are businesses to make money,
Right.
and they know who their big clientele is. They know what they've got to do to market that they're going to be purchased. They know that people are going to buy it. So, um, I guess for us, we have to look for those avenues if it's a break. Um, or if it's finding some retail when it's available or whatever. But yeah, I agree with you. That's been really frustrating to see a product that my daughter and I used to buy a couple boxes pre-ordered for $75 to $80 a box, which isn't cheap, but you were guaranteed a couple of autographs.
Yeah.
To now that's it's $140, $150, and nothing's changed about the product. Absolutely
Right.
nothing. Um,
No.
just the market. So,
Right.
but you know, maybe we'll see things. There's ebb and flow, and one day it'll come back. So I
I
think
hope so.
we get a greater appreciation for the singles that we're able to find, and
Right.
and do some other things. But yeah, I'm with
That,
you on
well,
that.
it's answered that question for me. Do you want to spend money on boxes? Nope. And I joined a few breaks with Glass now, and I was a little bit too intense trying to get like, the rainbows done, and didn't do quite well. So I really had to learn. Okay, if I'm gonna join a group break, I have to make sure it's something I'm gonna get cards that I need from. So I
Yeah,
joined the I think it's AMT Breaks, AMT Memorabilia on eBay. Super cool guy. He did a Stadium Club Chrome break. I got it for $750 plus shipping. Got a base card, got a refractor, got an insert refractor. I needed all three of them. I
yeah,
would have paid that much for them anyway. Good.
hmm
So I have to know what I'm getting into rather than
yeah,
joining like getting a random team for $80. That's like completely out of. I could get anything, and I don't like
yeah.
that. So
Yeah, when you
you
break, you
know,
have to kind of do your research. That was one of the first places I started, and
right.
if it's if you need to know what's in the product, understand the quantity of cards that are in the packs.
Yep.
If you're doing a dynasty break, you're kind of rolling the dice on that
Oh, big time.
versus doing a series one or a Chrome or something like that. So
For sure. And I've had to think about that because Formula One has Dynasty and if Vettel's on the checklist, I'm like, well, do I just save up and sell some cards and spend the $300 for a Ferrari patch auto out of 10 of him, or do I roll the dice and spend 90 on a group break spot and hope that
yeah,
you hit the card you want? I don't want that kind of pressure. That's just too much pressure. Unless it's like $40, then it is worth the
yeah,
roll. Yeah,
it's a
that
great point.
that is a
Yeah.
perfect point. I don't blame it. And vintage. If I did get this card out, I think this was going to be another most unexpected. But I did buy my first
Oh
vintage
wow,
vintage hockey card. It's the only one I own, and I forgot to show it. So thanks, Nana, for the
nice.
reminder. But I thought if I'm going to own any vintage card of a goalie, this is the vintage card to own, and it's his O-Pee-Chee. And big shout out to Nick, who was just on here a week ago. He gave me a ridiculous price on that card. I don't even want
Awesome.
to say it because it's not fair to him or anybody hearing it. They'll be pissed. But and he sent me some extras, so he really he gave me my first vintage card, and calling my dad to show him and watch him get excited over a hockey card was also really cool.
Wow. Yeah, man, that's a sweet card, and congratulations. Welcome to the vintage family.
Yeah,
And
dude.
O-Pee-Chee rocks, by the way. It's awesome.
Where you go with
Um,
hockey? Easy choice.
and that's well, who was that? Patrick Roy.
Patrick Waugh.
I'm
Yeah.
messing around. I know.
Okay, I was gonna say.
I had
So
to
can you
do it.
put can you put your southern twang on it and also
That's
say it
Patrick
wrong?
Roy. Who is it? Or Patrick Wall.
Oh, what? I'm not even gonna go there, man.
That's all good.
We'll go
Yeah, I
off
know
on
who
a
that is.
tangent.
Sorry,
Yeah.
hockey fans. That was just a
You
joke.
know, I have to say the same. I've realized 4 or 5 names I've said wrong when I've been showing my young guns off. I have been listening to every name that I've done wrong, and next time I say it on my YouTube channel, Poke Checking Cards, like I call it Georgiev. I'm sure a hockey guy was just like, ugh, downvote. Um, so I will make sure I get those right. I remember Chris Justice, he was doing some hockey breaks, and when he first started doing them for the first year, he's like, I'm not going to get any of these right. So just help me in the chat. Don't be a
Yeah,
jerk. And he's gotten really good
yeah,
at some of the names. Although he called Jocelyn Tybo because he'd
yeah,
never pulled a card of his. We'll let him off the hook on that. But that made me realize, okay, there's passionate people that like
yeah.
these players. I need to learn how to say these right. So I'm getting there.
Hey,
I'm
man, I
getting there.
understand. It takes me a little longer, drawn out syllables and all. So
You and your son, listening to you guys, the bloopers of saying him wrong was just great. And then he kept doing everything in a French, like he tried to like Frenchify every single
yeah.
last name. It was great. It was great.
The only French things he knows is fries. So French fry
Nothing wrong
guy.
with that, dude. Nothing wrong with that.
He's funny. Oh man. All right. So name. There's one card everybody's got. You know where we're going with this. Um,
Yeah.
If there was one card out there, budget aside, didn't matter, that one card you could have in your collection, what would it be?
A-Rod PMG from '98, easy choice. That card will haunt my dreams for a long time because Joe LaGreca, what's up, Joe, said buy that card at $150 3 years ago. Should have listened to him. Actually, it was less than that. It was about 2.5 years ago when my desk was on that wall, and I
Man,
don't know if I should spend over 100 on a card. That card is well, it's probably increased by 10 times that by now.
wow.
And if I ever own that card, I'll probably shed a few tears of joy, just because I don't ever think I will own that. I think there's one avenue to owning it, but my good friend Jeremy owns it, and I told him I'd hate to have to buy it from you, but if he ever does sell it, it will hopefully be in my hands and maybe go back to him someday. Who knows? But that would be the one card, because talking with Jean, that's one of the most iconic designs that her and her
Yeah,
husband ever did. The card is beautiful. He's got the Seattle skyline behind him. It's out of 50. It's everything 90s, and so I think just like 96 for metal, I think it would be the one card more than the 24 karat, more than any other A-Rod card, more than the Mirror Gold by far.
yeah.
That is the PMG. Yep.
Man, they are incredible cards. I was very fortunate to have an opportunity to come across one, and you were the first person.
Just pay what you need to pay, dude. Get this card. Yeah.
Do it now. I mean,
Thank
it
you.
was. I even was like, I'm going to see if the guy will take an offer, and he was like, "Well, I just listed them," and he never responded. So it was like, boom, I just
Yeah.
bought it, and I have no regrets on that for sure.
You'd be
It's a
paying
great card.
double right now for
Yeah,
it. Easy.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're exactly right. Um, Kind of going back to the hockey stuff.
There he is. My guy. Oh gosh, yeah. I don't know if you've ever watched that, but Steve is the consummate professional expert on hockey. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome.
I mean, if since you showed Vinny, I don't know if anybody else in here is hockey fans, but Vinny is another guy, man. He pulled this Jocelyn Thibault autograph mask card, and I was like, man, I've never seen any. I think they're not numbered, but they're printed to like 10 or 20. They're very rare cards. Pulled them out of a pack. He's like, I'm setting that aside for you. I'm like, can't wait to get it. He and his daughter C put like 3 stacks of goalie cards together, and he sent them all to me out of kindness of his
Wow.
heart. I mean, I can't wait to return the favor, but also just telling that to my dad. I remember him saying, "There's still good people out there, isn't there?"
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, there is, and the hockey community has helped me realize that even more than any other community. So, yeah, Vinny, I am very much appreciative of that, and I look at the cards he and his daughter sent me all the time, and they're in my binders, my '90s and modern binder. Like, oh yep, I remember all those. So that was
That's
awesome.
awesome.
It was
That was
awesome.
that was a very nice gesture. That was
Absolutely.
really cool.
Yep.
Well,
For
man,
sure, dude.
we made it to the end of the interview.
This has been fun for me. Thank you.
It's been fantastic. I'm nowhere near as good at this as moderating in terms of the time
You did good.
on
You did
anything,
a
but
good
this has just
job.
been a great conversation. Thank you.
Yeah.
But we do have one more question
Welcome.
before we
Easy,
wrap it
easy
up.
answer, man. Don't even need
So
to think about it. You
so
got it.
one word to summarize this interview.
Friendship. The last year of collecting has been all about making close friends, and sometimes you make friends and you kind of grow apart from them, but that doesn't mean that you don't share that bond of collecting.
Yeah.
But man, I've especially being in Sitka, Alaska, where nobody collects, and also there's just not a lot of people here. I've made some friends and that I easily could spend time with, not just at the national, but go spend time where they live, and
Yeah.
maybe not even talk about cars, but just have a great time being around
Yeah.
them. So my buddy Tyler, big shout out to him. He's definitely one of the closest friends I've made. You're on there. You, Ryan, Brent, the other Ryan, the hockey Ryan, I call him, Nick. Everybody I've had on this series, Alan, of course, from the National. I mean, just their friendships mean more to me than any of the cards that I have. And without that, I don't think I would enjoy collecting. Because for the first 3 years of collecting A-Rod, I was just doing it on my own. And I would try to post on Freedom Cardboard, and nobody would really say anything about the cards or vice versa. And
Yeah.
it just wasn't very personable, and I didn't really enjoy it. And the friendships make me and help me remind me of what this hobby is really about. And so it's the friendships for sure. You know, that's bottom line. What's come of the podcast, what's come of this channel, what's come of collecting, and I wouldn't replace that for anything, for sure.
And that's fantastic. I mean, I agree. And of course, from all of us, we appreciate your friendship and what you've done with this channel. You know, you and Greg start off with the podcast and creating essential credentials, but just the fact that a lot of us are here because of that interaction, and we we reciprocate that back. Thanks so much for being reaching out to us and being a good friend to us as well. We appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. I love when people come out and they say, "Hey, I really like the podcast. Thanks for the time and effort that you put into it." And that means more to me than anything, man. Than somebody saying your collection is awesome. It's like, well, that's great, but so is yours. You know, like that's awesome. But it's more about giving people the opportunity to maybe learn something about the '90s and also be entertained and enjoy the personalities and the different people that are in the community.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't been able to get nearly as many people on as I would have liked, but I think looking back on the 40 plus episodes that the channel has provided for the Essential Credentials, I think there's just been a lot of opportunities for people to meet and grow closer and share the excitement for each other's collections. And
Yeah.
that's been hands down one of the most enjoyable experiences that I've ever could have expected. And it's made me better at teaching on a computer too, believe it or not. I am so comfortable teaching 15 kids. I'm like, this is easy. I can handle this.
It's like, I can do it, no problem. I got this figured out.
It's made my life a lot easier in that aspect, because you go and you see other teachers who are on the verge of retirement, like, what the heck am I doing trying to teach on a computer? And I'm just like, let's go, let's share this and learn this and show this. It's been easy.
That's great, man. Well, look, like I said to begin with, thank you so much for thinking about having this series. As we started back in November and with Brent, and just all the way up to episode 13. Wrapping it up with interviewing you. Thank you for that opportunity again.
Hey, you're welcome. Thank you for doing it. You did awesome,
Yeah,
man.
no problem. I've had a great time. This is fun. I really enjoyed doing this. So
Good.
look forward to doing it again in the future
dude.
too. So, but this is your podcast, your channel. So I'll definitely want to give you the last word.
All right. So where do I even start? I should say 10 times to end where I started, right?
Sure.
But so so as I've said on this podcast a few times on this series of interviews, I'm not going to turn the channel off or anything crazy like that. But my heart is in hockey. I'm really excited to be sharing that with my dad and with some other friends of mine in the Instagram community. So I'm going to be putting my energy and focus on poke checking cards and that channel for the next 3-4 months. I'm going to definitely leave this channel up so people can go and maybe rediscover some episodes or go find some episodes they haven't seen. So there's plenty of content for people to go find. The last video of this channel before it goes on hiatus for a few months is going to be a Tyler Glasnow showcase, because I've been super fortunate to pick up a lot of once in a lifetime cards within a year of collecting one player. And I can't even fathom some of the cards that I've been able to get. So I'd like to show those off, talk about them. That'll be up on YouTube tomorrow, and that'll be time for the channel to take a little bit of a break. But I definitely want to say thank you to everybody that has been supportive so far in this endeavor of the podcast, especially. And there's so many people I could thank. I'll probably forget them all. I'll pretend to hold my, let's see, some kind of award. Like, okay, I'd like to thank... No, but first of all, Nate, Aaron, and Alan Hardy, they were the ones that really spearheaded me even doing a YouTube channel. And then from there, I think Greg is owed a lot of thanks. His personality has certainly given people something to look forward to on the podcast because of his style of collecting and his approach mentally to it. He's just a lovable guy, and so big shout out to him. Hopefully he watches this at some point. Thanks for getting the channel going with the podcast and creating the name for it. And then, obviously having Alan be a part of the national experience was freaking awesome, man.
Yeah.
And then everybody on the YouTube community, man, I'm going to forget some people, so I'll just call them out as a whole. Everybody in the YouTube community that has reached out and just kept me motivated to keep doing the series And then of course Rodney and Joe. I mean, they've been a wealth of information from financial side of things, and Rodney from just being the one to convince me to take my A-Rod collection to the next level. Like, stop trying to just spend a little bit. You got to go after these cards before they're worth more.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best pieces of advice I got with collecting some of the bigger cards before they got outrageous, which is where they're at now. So, yeah, I think that all those people have been a huge influence, and I'm really excited to continue interacting with everyone and whatnot, especially in the hockey side of things. I'm going to pull some of you over, so get ready. It's going to happen.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm enjoying it. So come on, guys.
Hop on, baby. Let's go. Get on for the ride.
If a country boy can do it, anybody can do it. Okay.
That's right. That's right, man. Well, thanks again, Ryan. I mean, thanks again for being willing to do this. A fellow teacher, I felt like that was an easy choice for me. Kind of understand the approach to keeping things organized, and it's been great to be on the other side of this for a change.
Yeah, man, we were all been looking forward to letting you get your story out there, and I'm enjoyed it myself. I like this side of it more than I thought. Actually, it's pretty good, So
Well, I'm then going to hold you to that on your channel, Southern Card Collector. When you start up, what's the name of that hockey series going to be called again?
oh man, we threw some names around. Most of them probably are not appropriate for 2020 anymore, but I think we're going to go with High Cotton Hockey.
Well, if you ever do a live stream for High Cotton Hockey, you can count me in. I would
You
be
got
more
it,
than
man.
happy to come on and chat cards, and I know Vinny and a couple others would be happy to come on and on your channel and provide some cheap entertainment.
Yeah, man. I just bring people and say, look, teach me something. Just explain hockey to me. I don't get it. We went to a game the other night. It was fantastic. The kids loved it.
Awesome,
we got everything we wanted. The kids were like, why do they fight? And I'm like, because this is the only sport you can fight that affects the game, the outcome of the game,
Yep, exactly.
But yeah, it's been fun. I'm looking forward to the Poke Checking Cards channel and its growth. And so, well, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in to this last episode. And we look forward to seeing you over on the Hockey Channel soon.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thanks again, Ryan. Appreciate it.